What's going on, EoP sports fans? It's Wednesday night. It's 8:30. It's time for EoP. I'm Big Al.
And I'm Joe Sheeran.
We got a lot to cover tonight. The Phillies stay red hot, and they're getting ready to cross the pond and play the Mets in a 2-game series in London. Got done sweeping the Brewers today. Eagles mandatory camp is underway. Going to take some storylines from that as well, Joe. Maybe touch a little bit on the Sixers. And we got a special 2 guests tonight on the phone tonight. We're going to have 2 guests tonight, Dave Brown and Jeff Rodimer, who wrote this great book here, Shadows of Glory. It's pretty cool collection of different stories, different takes, things that maybe you didn't know about, different World Series moments, from early years until about, I think, 2016 it goes all the way up to.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different things. A great read. I actually just started reading it, to be honest with you. I just got about a quarter of the way through, I think it is. But a very easy read, very smooth read for those who are like, I'm not much of a reader, but you got to check it out. And it's available on Amazon and at Barnes & Noble. But we'll be talking to them around 9:30. Joe, like I just mentioned, Phillies played a little earlier today. 2-0 victory. I want to talk to you. I talked a little earlier about this, but I want to talk with you about it.
Sure.
We always talk about the bats. Bryce Harper's hot. Alec Boehm is hot. Looks like Nick Castellanos is starting to kind of find his way through the muck a little bit. Let's see if it continues. So
You got a couple games.
yeah, but in all end all be all, we won a game 2-0 today. We won a game yesterday 2-1 in extras. The unsung story in my eyes is the pitching.
Oh, for sure.
Not that anybody's looked past it, and we'll go over some of the stats here. I've been kind of mulling over, but I guess with Zach Wheeler we expected. With Ranger Suarez, we're really excited about it. But Aaron Nola is one I want to bring up because I feel Aaron Nola gets a little disrespect sometimes. Because it's either if Aaron Nola does bad, he's a bum and he gets paid too much or he doesn't deserve to be. But when he pitches like a number one, it's just like, well, he should do that. That's what he should do. Like I don't feel like he gets enough. But like I said, Ranger has been kind of the tops of conversation. But Aaron Nola today came with a 3.03 ERA. I don't know exactly what it is with after that win.
2.93, I believe.
So right now, you got Ranger at 1.70, Zach Wheeler at 2.23, Christopher Sanchez at 2.71. Now a sub 3 for Aaron Nola. They are four pitchers, 4 of our 5 pitchers in the top 21.
Yeah.
In ERA in MLB. No other team has 3.
Yeah, and not to get off the Aaron Nola, but the Christopher Sanchez that you just brought up pitched a really, really fine game last night. And then after the game, I actually saw updates of the NL. And of course, 1, 2, 3 were Ranger, Wheeler, and Nola. And I put a post out there today, where's Christopher Sanchez? Like, could this be the first time that a team has 4 pitchers before of their top rotating pitchers, starting pitchers, in the top 5 Cy Young? I mean, he can't be that far off.
No, I mean, like we said, he's before today's game, he's still probably below Aaron Nola from an ERA standpoint. So I mean, if you just look at that, Aaron Nola has the worst ERA of all 4 of them.
Yeah, and and to come back to the Aaron Nola thing, I mean, we've season in and season out, we have talked about how one season Aaron Nola is pitching very well, and then the next season he isn't, and it became a trend. And then last season, we know that the contract negotiations broke down in the beginning of the season. And I said, you know what? We're just going to let it ride, see what happens at the end of the season. He didn't, he got stronger as the season went on. In the playoffs, he was damn good. He was almost lights out in the playoffs. And maybe that was his coming to Jesus moment, knowing, hey, this is the playoffs, the grandest of stages. I'm in a contract year. And once this season's over, we're getting right back into negotiations. Yeah. So I better go out there and do all that I can. And that's exactly what I did. Go into the offseason, from Dombrowski to everybody, they said their number one priority was Aaron Nola. And they showed it, and he got the money. And, then he comes into the season. He's currently 8-2, and he is number 3 in the possible NL Cy Young. I mean, this guy does deserve it. He does deserve all the accolades, everything that he gets, because he goes out there. And you know what? It's almost like like past seasons, it's gotten to like the fifth, sixth inning. He gets into a little trouble. He gives up a run or two, and they were like, "All right, well, we know he can't go past the sixth." When was the last time he didn't go past six?
Yeah.
I mean, if the Phillies 1 through 5, really. Okay, we'll take Walker out of this. 1 through 4. I mean, they're going 6, 7 innings consistently. I mean, Aaron Nola, he's not gonna compete. He's not gonna pitch this dominant all season. We know it. We know it. He's gonna have some clunkers. But until that
I
happens,
mean, even Cy Young Award winners get clunker games here and
absolutely,
there.
absolutely. And until that happens, we just have to ride the hot hand.
You bring up one bone of contention with this team that I do have in Taiwan Walker, and I know you have to give it. You got to be a little patient with them. They're making all the right moves for the most part. Even his numbers are still not the worst.
Sure,
there could be a whole lot worse.
sure.
But and it is it worth it to just let him and see what you can do, ride him out, and see if you can get Spencer Turnbull to be that longer reliever, high leverage kind of guy for later in the season and into the postseason.
Well, the other night he pitched 3 innings and he pitched a very good 3 inning stretch.
You can always tell when he first comes out, it's like
Yeah,
it's awkward for him. He's like weird in his own skin, But then he like settles in.
I think when it came to him, I mean, he starts off as I mean, he had the best ERA out of all the Phillies. In that stretch that he was starting, he was the number 5. And then Walker comes back and he's thrown into the bullpen as the guy who's supposed to be and known as the long guy. And it just seemed like he wasn't. It took him a little bit to become comfortable with that role and kind of get his mindset right with that. But recently, he's come out in that role and he's been very well. So hopefully that he just needed to get over that little hump of going from the starting, the starting to the bullpen, and now we're finally starting to see him calm down and get back to the way we know he can pitch and the way we've seen him pitch earlier this season.
Yeah. Our boy Dives checking in here. What's your 1, 2, 3 with the rotation come playoff time, Joe?
I mean, it's no question
I
here.
think you just leave it alone.
You got to leave it alone. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Wheeler, Nola, Ranger. I mean, if you get, I think you get nitpicky if you change it.
Well, what's funny is like up until this season, Aaron Nola was number 1. Zach Wheeler was number 2, and then of course with the surgence of Ranger was number 3. But this is the first season we saw number 1 and number 2 flip. So you're not going to probably go out of that order again come playoff time.
Yeah.
You're going to keep everything and stand pat with that. It's going to be Wheeler, Nola, and Ranger, no doubt.
Well, and we'll kind of go on this question our boy Phil's asking us: Nola v. Hamels. I'm not sure if he's asking who's better overall at this point. I mean, Hamels is done, but who could have the better Phillies career? I mean,
I honestly think it could be. Well, you know what? It's not fair. I was going to say Aaron Nola,
but he's got a lot more time.
He has more time, and Hamels, he won a World Series. I mean,
so if they win the World Series this year,
I mean, he was MVP of the World Series. Yeah. Am I wrong?
No.
Okay.
He was.
I'm legit asking. I don't remember.
No,
2008.
He was
MVP?
the MVP of the NLCS.
Okay.
I believe Howard was, or no, was it
maybe
Utley? One of the two. I don't. Think,
I can't remember who the
MVP was definitely not Hamel. I know he was, but I think it was the NLCS.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. But I mean, if we're saying like overall career, if the Phillies win the World Series this year and Hamels has Nola has a World Series under his belt, that question become a lot more difficult to answer.
Yes, but this
Is
also
about
goes back
longevity and stuff at that point too.
I'm kind of going back to what I said a couple minutes ago, where it was like, all right, Aaron Nola comes out, he's really good one season, then next season he takes a little bit of a step back. Then the next season he steps it back. No, I understand that, but I feel like that was more of the trend with Aaron Nola than Cole Hamels, because a lot of the argument with Cole Hamels was the run support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I feel like Aaron Nola has gotten run support. It's just he has bad innings, or at least he was having bad innings in prior seasons, and that's kind of what his reputation was.
How here's my thing.
At this moment, I'm going Hamels, of course, over Nola.
Yeah, I think that World Series win does give him that upper hand for the most part.
But Cole Hamels did go on to play for the Braves. So
did he pitch like 4 games?
I don't care. I actually think it was less than that. I think it was like a game or 2.
Yeah, I'm not even sure.
But no, he's got that over Hamels, to say the least.
How worried were you? I'm sorry. How worried were you when he signed this big contract that he was going to have like kind of a letdown year, or just kind of like not be able to live up to this extension he got or new contract he got.
I was kind of optimistic because I feel like, especially especially like last year, like because they were trying to get that contract done and they couldn't agree on anything. You knew, like, I think that feels like, or I feel like that belongs in the back of any player's mind
Sure.
because you are going out there and you are showing your stuff for that future contract. And it wasn't till late in the season and in the playoffs that he actually showed his worth for that big contract.
Ian is saying it was MVP.
Okay.
Okay, so I was wrong with
Thank
that.
you,
So.
Ian. So I do feel like with that out of the way, the pressure comes off his shoulders. He gets to breathe that deep, fresh air. And he's like, all right, now we can just concentrate on going out and being the best pitcher, throwing the best ball that I can do. I was optimistic going into it. I don't know if I saw 8-2 at this moment
Mhm.
and going, I was one of the guys who always said, okay, after the fifth, get him out. Now we're seeing him go consistent 7. This is the Aaron Nola that we have been waiting for years now.
I mean, he's almost doing his best Zach Wheeler impression.
100%.
He just throws the ball where he wants it, and he looks mechanical. Like he looks like a robot. Like there's no. You also see Aaron Nola's face kind of get like, you could tell when he was getting flushed. He didn't have a poker face.
Sure. And like I just brought up, like the way that they kind of flip flop the 1A, 1B when it came to Ace or Ace B, whatever you want to say, with Wheeler and Nola. I mean, if Nola was still, if he pitched that opening game and he was the ace, the number one guy, you wouldn't even blink at that right now. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't be sitting here pounding the table saying, "Oh, Wheeler should be over Nola," because both of them are pitching just that good right now. There's no arguments at all.
Dives saying, stupid question. Does the All-Star game still dictate home field advantage of the World Series? The
No,
answer
it
is
doesn't.
no. I think it's just you get paid more. You get like bonuses for
No,
winning.
they stopped that a number of years ago.
2018, I believe
Was it? Okay.
Or 17 was the last year.
But I always say this: thank God the NL lost that game in 2008 because the Phillies would not have won it at home. They would have been on the road
That's right.
because they would have had home field advantage. They would have opened up the series at home.
There you go. I just brought up the in Major League Baseball, the winning team players receive a share of $640,000 bonus pool.
Okay.
Each player receives $20,000 in addition to the bonus. All participants will receive other benefits such as airfare, hotel accommodation, and meal allowances. They get meal allowances. They get paid $20,000. They're getting flown out there, getting wined and dined and all that, and they get meal allowances too.
Hey man,
Come
2026, I'll be paying for all that for them. So
yeah, I just wonder what the meal allowance is. As a like what about it's like, oh, you get $100, you get $50 a day.
Well, as somebody
$20K.
Hold on, as somebody who has sent me food from the press box area, i.e., you.
Yeah, it's me. I'm sorry.
And you're sending me, what was it? It was like steak and chicken and like and what's it cost you? $10, and you're getting steak and stuff. I am sure that they are being represented just fine
I'm just kidding.
when it comes to the food menu.
I just think it's funny. Like they get a meal allowance. I would love just to know what the $20,000 players getting or for playing one game what the meal allowance is.
It's probably like a steak dinner somewhere. Yeah,
it's lunchable.
Christine's Cabaret, maybe.
So Joe, I mean, nobody. We can all say we were excited for this Phillies team, but I don't know if any of us saw them being where they're at right now.
Oh, I did. 100%.
Yeah. We're all waiting for said shoe to drop by now.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Is there any excitement for Joe Sheeran for this London series at all?
Ooh, the London series.
Like just going to London. I know like it's the Mets, and if this was at home or in New York, it'd probably be a pretty one-sided affair.
Yeah.
Still can be, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But like just for the aesthetics of the thing, does it move the needle for Joe Sheeran?
It moves the needle a little bit for me because number one, it's cool. I mean, the first time we saw the Eagles go over to London and play at 8:30 in the morning, whatever it was exciting. We're now going to see the Phillies go over there and play a division rival for 2 games. Of course, that'll be split home and away. They'll be the home team on Sunday. But I think it's cool because it also gets Chase Utley back involved with the Phillies organization because obviously he's the ambassador over there for the MLB. So he's going around. He was at Citizens Bank Park doing the interviews and doing all that. He had the commercial with Rob McElhenney and Bryce Harper about that.
Awesome.
So that's awesome. Yeah, I love seeing the Silver Fox, still around the organization and doing something, even if it's for the MLB
Did you see
overall.
His phone when it rang in the commercial? When Chase Utley called Rob McElhenney,
yeah,
it comes up silver fox on
Oh,
his
is it?
phone. Yeah.
I didn't notice
I
that.
thought I was like a nice little Easter egg, if you want to call it that.
Oh,
That
yeah, I'll
they
have to
did.
watch it again.
But no. I mean, I actually like it because on a Saturday it's early. You know,
Well,
it's not a 4 or 7 o'clock game,
right.
especially a guy who does a post game show. I will be on the coverage for that first. And by the way, unless something sets him back, Ranger will be pitching
Yes.
that first game, so that's pretty cool to hear. I want to get into some things real quick, but I do want to remind you guys that this show is brought to you by Sherry'sTickets.com. That's right, Sherry'sTickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. Great prices, no hidden fees. The price you see on the screen will be the price you pay. You're not going to get bamboozled at checkout. Sports, concert theater, you name it, they got it. Doesn't matter if it's the Phillies game or in Philly or whatever it is in the continental United States. You can use Sherry'sTickets.com and use that great promo code
EoP10.
That's right. EoP10 will save you 10% off at Sherry'sTickets.com. Again, sports, concerts, theater, you name it, they got it. No hidden fees. Great prices. There's hard to get tickets. Phillies tickets are going to be harder to get as we get closer to to October. So you're going to go to Sherry'sTickets.com and use that great promo code
EoP10.
That's right. EoP10 will save you 10% off. Also, guys, I want to remind you, our boys over at Philly Press Box Radio just got over. They'll be celebrating their 500th episode. They celebrated 10 years a month or so ago. And this will be their 500th episode. We'll be hitting, on June 23rd. It's a Sunday at live on location. And I will be there. Joe might be there, I think, right?
Yes, I'm trying to get there. Yes.
Yeah, Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne. And they got some guests coming in lined up. It's going to be a hell of a good time.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Two-time Cup champion Joe Watson will be there. Jim Jackson will be there.
That's cool.
The play-by-play for the Flyers, and Lou Nolan, in-house announcer for the Flyers.
That's really cool.
That is just a star-studded moment. So come out. Great show. Celebrate 500 years with Bill and Chet. Or 500 years, 500 episodes. Freudian slip there, guys. But also get to meet and greet and maybe get some pictures and signatures from some of the Flyers greats that we know and love. So come on out on Sunday. I keep saying Saturday. Sunday, June 23rd, starting all at 1:30 p.m.
And I got to say, last time we were there, we both had their wings.
Yeah,
and they were really good.
We partake in their food.
No matter where we're going, we're testing the wings.
Yeah, our food allowance was it was lean, but that didn't matter at the Irish Rover.
Luckily, we control the company card.
Yeah, that always comes in handy. Let's see. If you go to one game, Phillies in London or Eagles in Brazil, which one do you choose, Joe?
Phillies in London. There's no doubt about it.
I don't know. That's a tough one because I've heard nothing but crazy about Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's why I want to go, but at the same time, I don't want to go.
I'm married with 2 kids.
If
I'm going London.
If I'm a single guy, yeah. I mean, I always found London to be cool. There's like certain areas that people like talk. You have to try. Like I always like to go to Portugal, Spain. I heard there's nothing but great. Italy, of course.
You sound like you're from London.
Yeah, but Brazil, I just think it's a harder. I don't know. Probably if I had to take my family.
What's a closer flight?
That's a really good question.
They're probably right around the same, right?
Yeah, just different directions. Let me see. Let's see how long does it take?
I mean, London's 6 hours.
Well, they're 6 hours behind us or ahead of us.
Ahead of us, yeah. Well, yeah, so it's got to be a 6-hour plane ride.
Yeah. So from Brazil to Philadelphia, direct flight 7 hours and 51 minutes.
London it is. London's probably cheaper too.
No, when you get there, probably
really?
not. Oh no, I mean South America. The American.
What's the conversion of the year? What do they have? Euro?
Really not different at all.
Do they have Euro there?
7 hours and 10 minutes. No, Euros in Europe.
Okay, but I didn't know if they have the same currency. What the hell do they have?
Brazilians.
No, I meant London.
Oh no, I thought you meant Brazil. No, they have euros and pounds still.
Pounds. Okay.
Yeah, but euro because euros the whole Europe. So they all. I think it's like kind of goes both ways.
I think it's majority pounds.
Yeah. Right. So no, it's not much of a difference. 7 hours.
Brazil's got what, pesos? And I'm not making a joke of it. Like I'm like being legit.
I don't know. No, it's about a 40-minute difference.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost 8 hours for to Brazil, and it's a little over 7 hours to London.
Either way, who's taking you there?
Yeah, PhillySports.com. Got to jump on board. You got to jump on. And if you listen, If you're gonna go, you might as well go in style. It's called a Brazilian Real.
Okay.
Never heard, like, it's spelled REAL, real.
Mm.
Um, it's actually cost
Is it more than the American dollar?
$100 is 525 Brazilian
All right,
reals.
maybe I'll go to Brazil.
I don't know what,
I'll be a millionaire.
yeah, but I don't know what that
I'll be a
means.
million real.
No, but I think that money goes further in
Oh,
South America.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Than it doesn't, because I think the conversion for pounds is not even close. Yes, Mike. Thank you very much. Smash that like button for all those. Thank you for joining us tonight, Mike. But yeah, I mean, that's a really tough. It's a good question though from Dives though, because I feel like I could get to London a lot easier than I'll ever get to Brazil. So like the option for me to go to London would be higher. And I mean, we've already seen the Eagles play in London. And the Phillies are now in London, so my odds of them they're going to probably be back again. Especially for,
Sure.
I mean, they put out just recently the Sunday Night Baseball with the Phillies was like the highest Sunday Night Baseball they had, like viewership wise, in like 20
But is
years.
that really surprising though, the way they're playing right
No,
now?
it's not really surprising, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they bring them back again.
Well, yeah.
I mean, everybody's like, why does it have to be?
I'm trying to think if they play anywhere else other than London, because obviously the NFL is doing Germany, London, Mexico,
Yeah.
Brazil. They're all over the damn place.
Yeah. I heard somebody complaining today about why are they going to London? Nobody really cares about baseball in London. Why don't they go to like South America, Central America? I know they go to like Japan and different Asian because they're already big there.
Hold on.
That's my key thing. It's already happening there. Why would you go where it's already happening?
Let me answer it this way. Why would the NFL go to Brazil? They're playing on a soccer field.
Yeah.
At least London has baseball fields.
Well, no, they're going to an area that's untapped. That's my
Who,
thing.
London or Brazil?
Well, MLB and NFL.
Don't you have to sign like waivers and have special passports and stuff to get in Brazil?
I mean, I don't. I think it's
Like
like
I
think
read
it's a
something.
passport, not a special passport.
I read something where you got to have like $3,000 in like escrow in case anything happens while you're there.
I think that's anywhere you go outside the country.
I mean, it could be.
I
Yeah.
mean, almost anywhere.
I mean, I'm only hearing about it in Brazil because that's where the game is. This
yeah.
year.
No, I
Could be the same way with other countries.
that I mean that I know. I mean, listen, I've heard some horror stories of people going like the Bahamas and islands in Central America and
Fans
Mexico.
can't even wear green.
Well, that's a weird one. I mean, you picked literally what are they gonna call them? The just the Packers or the G Bay Packers or something? Like, are they going
Right.
to are they going to announce them as the Green Bay Packers?
I don't know.
Like over the or you know?
I mean, luckily the Packers will be wearing their away uniform, so it'll be more white and yellow. But the Eagles,
well, maybe they wear all the black, the blackouts.
I don't know if they're gonna bow down.
But again, like you pick two of the teams that are green. Like, why didn't you pick the Chiefs and the Ravens?
Right.
You know, you got red and purple. You don't have to wait, but like it really was not well thought out.
I honestly think the NFL just did not do their research.
You think it was a blunder? Like somebody's getting
I
fired?
honestly do. But the weirdest part about it and why it could be an overlook is the flag has green in it.
Yeah.
The Brazilian flag has green in it. So who would think that green is the color of the rival and you're not allowed to wear it in or around the stadium?
I have to imagine that the NFL execs or some higher up, not maybe.
But I'm sure they're not worried about the teams and the officials and stuff being there and getting there. They got they should worry about the fans.
And
you know, be out,
rather the Eagles fans going, I'll wear. Like,
of course,
I know there's probably about 50 people going, I'm going to wear green just in spite of the situation. And that's what I worry about. Like an international, because you know what, in the last years or so, I feel like the Eagles like national. Every time a fight breaks out in Philly, they're going to cover it more than they cover anywhere else or something like that. But I feel like that's kind of calmed down a little bit. Not as bad as this, but if an international incident happens in Brazil, we're going right back up to the top.
It's not going to be the coverage of the Green Bay fans.
No.
It'll be strictly Eagles fans.
Eagles
who
fans
are highlighted in this,
causing international instances.
The Brazilian Santa had rocks thrown at him by aggressive Eagles fans.
Yeah, right. You don't need any extra visa for Brazil.
Okay.
I didn't think about that, but I listen. If you're
hold on, is a visa a passport?
Yeah.
Why don't they just why do all these things have different names?
I don't know. I really don't know.
It really chaps my ass.
That does chap my ass a little bit too. I've only won international once. I have mine's probably like I would probably have to get it renewed. It's been so long since I went to Mexico. I mean, my son's 8, so it's been about like 7 years. And I had it for before then because I was in the Bahamas back in about 9, 8, 10, 11 years ago. So
Coincidentally, I was supposed to go to Canada 9 years ago or so, and one of my buddies brought it up the other day, and I couldn't believe how long ago that trip was supposed to be. They went, I didn't
I
go.
went to Canada when all you needed was your license.
Okay.
That was awesome. You went 18, you could drink. It was awesome. It was a good
Hey,
time.
you could drink, eh?
Yep. Oh, and
Canada
he said
sucks, let's be
passports
honest.
and visas are different.
Thank you.
What's the difference?
Well, then why are you saying you don't need a special visa? I'm saying a special passport, damn it.
Well, then, yeah. Do you need one or the other? Are they two different things? Like two different
Maybe you need both.
do something separate? I don't know. Well, obviously, me and Joe are not men of travel.
I'm not jet setting anywhere.
Joe said just that's the Brigantine and Sea Isle. That's his jet
100%.
setting.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't. I make the
places I
joke.
need.
I don't go much further either. So
The only two
sometimes I get a
places I
little
need.
risque and travel to the Delaware beaches. I think that, like a few years back, I went to Virginia Beach. You know, really throwing a
Stepped right outside the
curveball on
box
it.
with that
Yeah, really. Let's talk about JT Realmuto and being
Yes.
like the
An
man,
Iron Man.
the man.
An Iron Man.
Like yesterday, nobody was happier for Nick Castellanos to end that game than JT Realmuto because
I know.
he was like I was afraid he was going to get hurt one more time. And I think because he was like, people thought I was nuts for saying this, but he was scheduled to play today.
Yeah.
Because he was going to be off for a few days. But because of getting hit in the head, hitting the cojones,
Yeah.
and hit by pitch. Strom, dude, by the way, that video, Strom knew as it happened.
Oh yeah.
That was crazy.
JT Realmuto, the fact that he was supposed to play today, knowing the days off ahead and the plane ride, they sat him because he said he came to the ballpark a little bit sore. So if he's a little bit sore, that means somebody like another player is getting put on like the 10-day IL because JT Realmuto at 33 years old shows no signs of slowing down.
Yeah,
shows no signs of not being able to take a lick. I mean, this guy. I mean, he is still. This is what 5-6 years into him. Can you believe that he's been a Philly longer than he's been a Marlin?
Yeah.
At this point, like that still blows my mind that he's been here that long. The fact that he, shows no sign of slowing down. I mean, this guy is just absolutely amazing.
So I have a theory about the 10-day IL for Brandon Marsh and Cody Clemens. My theory is they wanted to try out Dahl. They wanted to give these guys. They wanted to see what they had in there.
He showed up.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have like, all right, well, we're up, we're okay right now. I mean, it kind of sucks if they did that on purpose because he lives out on a chance of playing in London. You know,
it's true.
I mean, I guess he's flying there. I mean, I guess he's going with the team.
I would think so. I know Aaron Nola said
Is
earlier.
Trey Turner going?
That I don't know. I think he should.
Yeah, I think he should.
Because look at it this way. Even the guy, like, all right, I'll just
unless it'll affect your health.
I was going to say Aaron Nola. He said earlier he's going, but it's more of a vacation for him because he's not scheduled to pitch.
Yeah.
So why would it be any different than Trey Turner, who can go out there and take some some ground balls or whatever it may be? Why shouldn't he go out either?
So it is Walker Sunday?
I hope not.
Right? Who? Let's see. It was Wheeler yesterday. Was it?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
No, wait. Who was on Monday?
It went Wheeler, Sanchez. Aaron Nola, so Ranger Saturday, and then I guess Walker / Turnbull.
Sounds more English anyway. Turnbull.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the Brandon Marsh thing is a little bit silly. It didn't look like that serious of a hammy. I mean,
I'm okay with them letting him rest.
Oh, of course, no. But
I really think they wanted to be able to bring somebody up. And
does he have to be on it for a set 10 days?
I believe so.
Okay.
He was.
But then, how come when somebody is put on like a 60-day DL, they can come back after?
Well, I think there's a rule. Maybe it was the same rule with the 60. I think at 30 days you have a chance to come.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But that's probably because it's 60 days versus 10 days. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know Cody's was retroactive to May 31st too.
Okay.
So he actually can come off a few days prior to.
See, I don't see them traveling. I don't see Cody traveling with the team. But who do I know? Like, he could.
I mean,
he probably should.
I wonder if
he's on the main roster.
I wonder if it depends on the money. Might pick him over if he ain't gonna play. That would suck.
If it costs him more to fly over and be there than what he's getting paid to actually play, maybe that's the thing.
Some guys can fall in that category. But
all right, but how about this? If Cody comes back, can he go play for AAA? or no, because he's still a part of the main roster. Because because when they go on the DL, they bring somebody up. So
Mhm.
even though they're on the active roster,
Yeah.
they still have somebody taking their place.
Yeah.
So if he comes off the IL early, can he go down and get some reps at bat for said person who came up to the main roster?
And the funny thing is those Dahl and Weston Wilson had to grab their passports too when
Yeah,
they're on the way up because they weren't even planning on coming either. They had to pack up everything. They're roommates too. They had to pack. It's like,
I know.
there's like one has to pack up the half, the other one has to pack up the other half. That's pretty crazy. But that's the game of baseball. Anyway, good for those guys. I do like both of them. I mean, it's almost like a problem having as many good players playing right now. I mean,
Yeah,
because the question still remains is when Trey Turner comes back, which would be roughly around the next 10 days or so, right?
I think this injury to Cody Clemens does not help him at all
Oh, no. No,
because in
absolutely
my
not.
eyes the argument was Cody has to stay up even when Trey comes.
Mhm.
But now it's almost
Yeah,
like,
but
well,
who do you send down?
right I mean
'Cause
now
you
I send out Cody Clemens.
no, I mean, if he had to stay up, like,
Then it's got to be Pache.
I yeah,
What
no,
Whit Merrifield can't be sent down unless he agrees to it.
no, you can't because Pache would you can't send it. He's no more options
He has
left.
no more options.
It would have to be Rojas. He's the only other guy on the
Okay.
I mean, just trying to think of a guy coming off the bench.
I mean,
He
there's trade rumors of going out and getting another outfielder. So I mean, they might be open to that anyway. Could be another reason why they brought up Dahl because he's
show
an
him
out.
off,
Yeah, well, no,
trade piece him, like
no,
showcase him.
no. I think for him to play the outfield to see if he could play the outfield next to Marsh, playing center because I think that they really are ready to make their decision about Rojas. I mean, this is a pretty good sample size now.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying he's not playing good.
but I mean, do you make a decision of moving on for him completely? I mean, how old is he? 22,
He's pretty young.
and he's been playing well. I mean, he hasn't. I
He
mean,
hasn't been great,
he's
but he
been,
hasn't been bad.
but he's for a 9-hole hitter.
Yeah,
I mean, his defense is. I mean, the only thing his realest biggest problem for me right now is his base running, blundering. Like he got picked off the other night,
right.
and he just kind of like. But that's rookie mistakes. I get that to a point.
Like
Um,
one of the arguments you could even say about him and being in the 9 hole is like, well, would you get at least that type of production or less if there was a pitcher in there? So I mean, obviously the pitcher wouldn't be
well,
batting the same, as good as he would. So you're already getting better production in the 9 hole from him over a pitcher.
here's my thing: is like he he's hitting above the average for 9-hole hitters in Major League Baseball. He has stellar defense for the most part.
Yeah,
Um, he's scoring guys. I mean, over the last few games, the few runs they got, a couple of them most of them came from the bottom of the order, the,
yeah.
the second half of the order, and Rojas is one of those guys.
I've kind of flipped on the Pache and Rojas thing to where now when Rojas comes up, I don't automatically think it's an out. But now when Pache comes out, I automatically think it's an out.
And listen, that
They could trade Pache for all I care.
they could swing, and I wonder, and maybe they're trying. It could be, Pache. It could be, I don't think they. I think they move on from Pache before they move on from Rojas. Honestly,
Is it because
um,
of the options though? Knowing that it's either main club or bust, do they look to move him knowing that outcome?
well, I think part of it has to be because they know that they have to make a decision. Like he can't. Like I just said, he can't go back down.
Yeah.
So and they got him for the cheap. If you can trade him as a part of a bigger piece to get like a steady closer in or anything like that.
Still a great trade by Dombrowski bringing him in last season.
Oh
It's just
yeah,
it's
no, I
not
mean
working out.
it's like the Amundo Sosa one, very flew under the radar. And look at
Ooh,
that, look what he's doing right
I
now.
know.
Because that's the other question: what do you do with Amundo
Oh my god, that's the
when
bigger
when
question.
Trey Turner comes back? Yeah, we actually have a wealth of options right now. So right now, Rojas is hitting a 234 on the season.
It's not like
It's not bad at all
it's
for your 9
not.
hole. I think the 9-hole hitter it's 229 is the
Okay.
average MLB average. Um, he's an OPS of 572.
Okay.
He has 20 runs scored, 39 hits, 3 doubles, a triple, 2 home runs, and 19 ribbies. Uh,
19 ribbies.
yeah,
Not that wasn't expecting that.
yeah. I mean, and most of those came more in the last 6 weeks or so
Yeah.
versus like the beginning of the season. Because
Yeah, you're right. He had a really slow start.
do you get rid of Walker before Pache? Yeah, but the problem
Well,
is they're two
it's two
different
different
positions,
positions.
and somebody's got to want to take Walker's bloated salary.
Yeah.
Now, I'm wondering, is part of the thing of them putting Walker in there to showcase Walker and get him like
A bag of balls.
shine it,
What do
shine.
you
Well,
what are you getting for him?
well, I think you get next to nothing, but get rid of his contract. Number
True.
one, but like if you're trying to say you're getting a closer,
But there's also with MLB, you can trade somebody and have to eat some of their contract.
sure, but would
So
you?
you're not there's probably a big chance that you're not trading the contract away. You're probably going to have to pay at least a good percentage of it.
All this travel talk has me wanting to talk to you, Joe, about phillysportstrips.com. Baltimore trip is still available, I believe, but you don't have much longer to get it because it's about 10 days from now. So they're going to be back. They're going to hit Boston, and then they're going to head down to Baltimore. And what?
Boston.
Oh, God, you guys love how I say it. And listen, I know sometimes you're like, dude, I can't go to Brazil. I can't go to London. That's an expensive trip. I got family to take care of it all. This is a great trip. Great Father's Day present, by the way, too. Day trip. I know you'll see the man Joe Sheeran down there
That's
for
right.
this
I
one.
will be there.
Check it out. They're also going to Chicago. The one to Boston sold out. So like you guys got to jump on these things before it's too late. I'm actually might be going to this one. Heading out to Pittsburgh for PNC Park, and like I said, they have all the away games all set up. They even have a couple local stuff too. Check it out. All the away games for the Eagles. I saw you making that face. I mean for the Phillies. All the
Oh no, I'm looking
Yeah,
at the dates of the Pittsburgh trip, thinking if I'm down the shore that week or
yeah.
not, and if I can go. So
We know somebody who lives right out there who I can
that
crash
is
out.
that is true.
Yes, yes.
That is true.
I've already told his wife I'm sleeping between the two of them.
Nice.
But yeah, go to
Wait,
phillysportstrips.com and tell them EoP sent you guys in about 15 plus minutes. We're going to have Dave Brown and Jeff Rodemeyer from Shadows of Glory, the book. Got to check it out. We're going to talk all about that. So stay tuned for that interview coming on around 9:30. Joe, before we get into the conversation with them, I want to change gears a little bit with you.
oh. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was beating my brain trying to remember what I wanted to bring up, and we don't have to go on a long thing about it. But I do want to bring up Reese Hoskins' return to Citizens Bank Park on Monday.
Oh, good, because there's a point I want to make about that too. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Uh, I mean, outside of the home run, I mean, it was pretty cool. I mean, I think the Phillies did a really cool thing with the tribute video. Of course, the standing O from I would say a majority of people. Of course, there were some boos.
I think it was
What
kind of a humorous boo because he said he was going to get booed when he comes.
Yeah,
He hopes to get
he
booed.
said he
Or,
hoped to get booed because that
yeah,
means that the Brewers were doing something
yeah.
good. And I mean, hey, rightfully so. But I thought the absolute highlight that I just could not help but just smile and just love was Reese's second at bat. He draws the walk. He steals second on JT. JT throws it down. And as soon as Reese pops up, he rips his helmet off and he just stares right at JT, jokingly friendly. And they're smiling. They're going back and forth. On the very next pitch, a single from I don't even know who it was. Reese tries second to
I
home,
think it's
and
Contreras.
okay, Contreras, the single by Contreras. Reese tries to stretch it out, second to home, and Rojas throws a GD bullet, perfect throw to JT in the most perfect spot, and Reese gets thrown out at home. And and then they both look at each other, slap each other on the butt and everything. And it was
The way JT got him, like I
yeah,
saw that. Now
they
you're
were
going to see
laughing.
this.
It was so cool. And the funny part about that is if you watch that video, when Reese Hoskins jumps up, he takes about 3 or 4 steps to the Phillies dugout. And it looks like he forgot which side to go to. And then he was like, oh, he turned around and went back to his dugout. But outside of the home run, I mean, it was really cool to see Reese back there. Got no ill will towards him. It was just a business move on everything from him.
Where do
Maybe
you
we'll
put
see
Reese
him again
Hoskins?
maybe we'll see him again in the playoffs here. We don't
Yeah.
know. But I mean, hey, it was a really cool return for Reese Hoskins.
Where do you put Reese Hoskins if you kept him on this team? Nowhere.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And so I was doing the post game show that night and got a little heat because I brought up a point here.
Could play left field.
I asked the question: Did the Phillies and the fans do too much, too little, or just enough, showing a little love for Reese?
Uh, I'll give you my point of it.
Okay.
Night one, bat one, standing ovation, deserved it absolutely. After that, he's the enemy. Bat 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, he probably shouldn't have been cheered game one. And then game two, I'm thinking to myself, sorry, for game two and game three, I'm thinking to myself, all right, like that's it. Like you don't show love to the guy, whatever. But then in the back of my mind, I'm going, well, there are people who are at game two and game three who weren't at game one to see him in his return. So does he deserve the at bat ovation for those games as well? And I was torn within myself because I personally just believe at bat one, game one, that's it. But I understand other people have their own feelings about it as well. I wouldn't have done it. I don't think any others should have done it. And especially if the Phillies would have lost that game one, then they shouldn't show Reese any love after that. But fortunately, the Phillies did win. So it's a gray area. It absolutely is. And I can see how people could be on both sides of it.
So I tweeted out when he hit that home run. That's it, Reese. That's all you get, buddy.
Yeah, 100%.
So
I say 100% a lot.
The one thing I guess I have a problem with, and again, he was a guy that was supposed to build the team around, and he was a Philly in some of the magical moments that we've had in the last couple of years. He was a part of the old bat spike situation. I get it. I'm okay that the first at bat, they gave him a little standing O, showed a little love, saw him get choked up, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. What I don't love is that people and it happened even last year and into the postseason and then into the offseason. If Rhys Hoskins was in there, we would have been in the World Series. No, we wouldn't.
Mm-mm.
Everybody forgets. I know I was on the record. I've heard you say it. I've heard a few people say it. We were over Rhys Hoskins already.
Yeah.
It was unfortunate that an injury had to kind of deter his last season here.
I think in the Phillies' eyes, even though it sucked that it happened, I feel like it was kind of beneficial to the Phillies because I think it was much, much easier to move on from him and much easier decision to put Bryce at first base, knowing that Rhys did not play the season prior to that. So it's a very damning thing for Rhys Hoskins that he didn't get that opportunity to play his last season, but it helped the Phillies in my eyes.
Yeah, it did. Listen, it made the decision a little easier because say he had a really good year and he played.
Right.
And I'm done with this guy. I don't, and then we got to keep him. We got to find a spot for him, and we got to put him in the left field. You can't put him in the left field because we're gonna do it with Brandon Marsh. We're gonna move on from one of the younger guys. You're gonna trade. It made it a little easier. And let me just this narrative. Shut this one down right now. Harper did not steal his job.
No.
We've all talked for years now, for a couple of years now, that either JT was going to take his job as he aged because he couldn't sit behind the plate like he did, or move one of the we even talked about Nick Castellanos possibly playing. But when Bryce Harper got injured, that was the first thing that popped in everybody's head. If he can't play the outfielder for a while, put him at first base. And as soon as he started playing at first base, I mean, he's a better defensive first baseman than Rhys Hoskins ever was.
He's a Gold Glover.
Yeah, and then
you can't argue that.
But my point is this revisionist history we love him and he's the best, and we wish he was still here. No, you don't.
2 years ago in the World Series against Houston, I was public enemy number one calling for Rhys Hoskins, saying that he was the defensive liability at first base that lost the World Series for them. Mm-hmm. I stand by it. I love Rhys. Absolutely love Rhys. Loved his return. But, I mean, we were ready for him to go elsewhere.
Adam says, where would Nick be playing at if Harper was still in the right field?
That's a good question, too.
It's a great question. And
I can't even tell you where Nick was playing when Harper was in right field.
Well, he was platooning.
Okay, yeah.
He platooned, and he was DHing before the DH.
That's right.
Remember the DH?
I forgot about the DH.
It wasn't long because he got hurt. It was
Yeah.
only a couple months, right? Because it was June when he got hurt. When he got when he got hit in the hand in San Diego.
He came back in June. He only missed the first 2 months. So when the hell did he get hurt?
He originally got hurt in San Diego.
Okay.
And then he came back, but he only could DH. And then
that's right. That's right.
After
Okay.
the season, he had
Got
Tommy John.
That's right.
And then he came back early on last year.
I forgot that there was a
So
time
there really
where
wasn't a long time when all like him, Schwarber, and all them, were really moved around too
mm,
much because you had a right and left field for Schwarber, and Brandon Marsh wasn't here yet. So if Nick was at right field or wasn't at
well,
right field, he'd probably be at left field, and you probably have Brandon Marsh at right field.
really the only argument, really, if Reese would have come back or if he had another year on his contract, is Schwarber would have had to stay in left, Harper would have had the DH, and Hoskins would have been at first.
Mhm.
So that's really the only other play that they would have had.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, you have a wealth of riches in certain areas, and now we're having almost every area.
Yeah.
Because if they say they go out in the trade market, Joe, and they go get a stone cold closer, like I feel that's where they will be looking.
hmm
Who's the odd man out? Is it Sir Anthony? But he's
Ugh.
been playing better a lot too. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't
Ruiz
know.
has been playing really well.
Ruiz has been a long guy. I mean, they've
Yeah,
really depended on him.
Junior Marte is going to be coming back
That's
soon.
right.
He's
I
coming off,
forgot all about him.
and that's who Ruiz is taking in for.
Strom is a stud.
Strom is an
Hoffman is a
absolute stud.
Alvarado has his moments, but he ain't going anywhere.
I just don't like this Jeff Hoffman Alvarado flip flop.
I know they flip flop them.
Like this
They,
platoon.
who the hell was I just? Who did I just have on my? Oh, Soto.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
what do you do with Soto?
get rid of him.
I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, he's Hector Neris, but with less
To
success.
me, Soto is the Walker of the bullpen.
Yeah, yeah, but he's also one of the most paid ones too, right? One of the higher paid bullpen pieces.
I would think so. They traded for him, so I'm not sure if they gave him a new contract or not, or if his contract was just bloated when he came here.
I'll tell you right
They
now.
traded I want to say Bamboo, Brad Miller, and Verling.
So
Oh no. It was Nick Maton and Verling for Soto, I believe, and then Brad Miller just signed somewhere.
So
in free
he's
agency.
actually only $5 million. Greg Soto.
See ya.
He's in arbitration. They avoided arbitration, signed him to the $5 million. He's ARB3 next year. Then he's a UFA in 2026.
I mean, they can move on from him then.
I mean he's very affordable. Again,
he
like,
is, but but next year in ARB3 he's going to get another million or two. So what, 6.5, 7 million?
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
He doesn't even pitch that often.
No, and again, I think you could package Taiwan Walker a lot easier than you could get
Walker and Soto.
well
Combo them.
I don't know who's will be crazy enough to
Combo
take.
them.
Maybe the Mets will be dumb.
I was going to say somebody who's just trying to.
They might just need players because people are like literally quitting on them.
I know. Oh my god, I know.
That video with him flipping his
awesome is that
glove in there and his effing team sucks.
I love how everyone was saying, "Oh, like Jorge, whatever his name is, he gets to throw his glove in the stands. Everybody loves it."
Yeah.
But 2 years ago, when Bryce throws his helmet in the stands, he's the enemy of the MLB.
Yeah, well, everybody likes to do that. It makes zero sense to me. But no, I mean,
like, this is the worst effing
yeah.
team in the league. Like, that's ballsy, man.
Well, they said they tried backtracking it and saying
I know
he said that he's the worst effing teammate.
Right.
And because there was no translator for there was like misconstrued, whatever. But
yeah, I'm calling BS on
I'm
that.
calling BS on it. We all know the Mets.
He is DFA'd though.
But
he was DFA'd like an hour after that.
Yeah, and I think somebody said he has like a sick child too. Like,
oh really?
Yeah, like some crazy story I heard. I don't know if it was just BS.
I saw Mets fans on Twitter saying like, "Watch, this guy's going to sign with the Braves or the Phillies and be an absolute stud."
Yeah, right. But like honestly, if you're trying to move on from somebody, I think Walker has the highest upside outside of his bloated contract.
Yeah.
I think you can look at him and say he's not bad, he's not great, but he's not bad, and maybe a change of scenery would be good for him. Maybe there's a lot of pressure after what happened in last year's. Because that's my question. That's like one of those conundrums, man. What happened in the postseason last year that they had to have a bullpen game and he couldn't sniff the field?
Yeah, that is.
They put Michael Lorenzen in, who had no arm left after his no hitter.
They used Wheeler in Game 7 out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have too. But, I mean, that is one of the biggest head scratchers I have ever seen because you can't trust this guy for even a single out in the playoffs. But yet the next following season, you trust this guy to go out every 5 days?
When you found a diamond in the rough as Spencer Turnbull.
It's the biggest head scratcher I've ever seen from this team. And I understand he makes money. But who cares? Would you rather be the best team? I mean, luckily, This guy has not screwed things up
Yeah.
for them, whether it's mojo, karma, chemistry, whatever it is. Luckily, they're still winning at a high
Yeah.
rate, but it could have gone the other way as well.
Yeah, and listen, he's Adam saying Sir Anthony could be traded too, and we're giving away
I can't believe he's still on this team.
we're giving away the bottom of our barrel. We're not going to get much for it. Like he could just be a piece in a minute. It would go along with a prospect, especially on the size of the trade
Dude,
and who they're trading for.
tell me I'm wrong on this. When Sir Anthony Dominguez gets hurt and he's out for a period of time, and then when he's about to come back, that period of time that he's out, do you even remember he's on the team?
No.
Me either.
I forget Greg Soto's on the team.
Me either. It was like 2 seasons ago where he was out for the remainder of the season, and then like in the offseason, we're talking about pitching and stuff like that. Never did his name cross my mind. Then when it came to the next season and they were listing the bullpen arms and he showed up on it, I'm going, I can't. I didn't even know this guy was still on the team. Yeah, trade him.
Yeah. But our garbage can be somebody's gold for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe not
Soto,
gold.
Dominguez, and Walker all gone for a closer.
I mean, yeah, and you could still because if Ruiz is still playing well and Junior Marte comes up and does what he was doing earlier. Because remember, I mean, especially when it comes to the rotation, the starting rotation, come the postseason, we only have to worry about 3 to 4 guys.
Right. And one of my other bigger, like I keep saying closer from the Athletics. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But I keep saying trade deadline, go get a closer. But another question I have is when it comes to the Alvarado Hoffman, the deciding to not have a closer. I mean, I know Kimbrel they had last season as the closer role, but it just feels to me like Rob Thompson would rather go situational instead of just the closer. So can he even say that to Dombrowski? Say like, hey, no, we want to go situational with Hoffman and Alvarado. No, don't bring a closer in. Where does Dombrowski say, hey, listen, I'm the one running this team. We're the best team in baseball. If I bring in a closer, you're using him as a closer.
Yeah.
Like who has the upper hand with this?
I think if they go out and get a shutdown closer, I don't think anybody's arguing. I honestly think personally they want a closer, and I think it'd just be a lot easier. Because I mean, to use Kimbrel, that's why wouldn't you do
why
this
try and
else?
fix what isn't broken?
Because I don't know if that will hold up all year long.
But again, I go back to the Spencer Turnbull thing. This guy goes from a starter to reliever, long reliever, and you see it kind of messes with his head a little bit, at least in my opinion. And he has a slow start out of the pen. Who's to say that Hoffman and Alvarado, their routine gets mixed up a little bit, and then they have a little bit of a step back?
Hold on, I got something.
You got something? I don't even know what this is.
We might have to do this after our interview. I forgot.
Okay.
We have to pick a winner tonight.
Oh, that's right.
I almost forgot. I looked over there.
That's
It
right.
just reminded me. So
I remembered. I didn't want to give away my tickets.
Yeah, right. Sorry, yeah, we stole some more Joe's tickets.
It's funny that Adam's comment was up there
because Adam was the last winner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were at Belco Day,
Yes.
and we had a bunch of people sign up, and we have a lot of tickets at the bottom of this bucket here. I'm going to unload it. So when we get done our interview with Dave Brown and Jeff, I'm going to make sure I'm going to say his name right. Rodimer.
Sounds right to me.
Sounds right. Well, I'll tell him to fix it because I'll put your name.
Because you're a botard?
Yeah. I'm your favorite kind, though.
The bowiest.
But when that happens, I got to get this stuff out of here. Sorry. I packed it in there because I was afraid they would get lost.
So. I get it.
So, yeah, we have a handful.
Hey, man, you got my wiffle ball signed by John Kruk.
It's in my car.
It's in your car.
I had it. I've been holding on to that for you. We'll have that ready. So we will pick a winner in just probably after the phone call because they're calling in about
1 minute.
1 minute. So we'll be talking to them about Shadows of Glory. Oh, Shadows of Glory. Yeah, I said it right. Shadows of Glory. It's pretty interesting. So for what I read so far, they just take really unknown stories about World Series that you would like parts of the World Series you may have never known, and bring it to print and talk all about it. So we'll hear more from them. Let's see. Have you guys been following George Klassen in Clearwater? Throws 100 miles per hour, .26 in 34 innings pitched, 0.26. Oh, we got a call. So let me take this. 1 second here. All right, guys. It looks like we have here on the line. I'm gonna bring him in. Oh, got a call. Let me take this.
Okay.
Hey, Dave. How you doing? Are you there?
Hey, Al, how you doing?
It looks like we All right. You might want to turn your turn us off because I'm getting some feedback here. But also, I believe we also have Jeff. I want to say, make sure I'm saying his name right. Rodeimer.
Rodeimer is good. Yep,
Rodeimer.
I told
Okay.
you. I told you.
Easier than it looks.
You were saying it wrong the whole time, Al.
Rodeimer. All right. I am the worst. But we're here to talk to you guys because you guys are co-authors of the book Shadows of Glory, which you guys can see up on the screen here. Dave, you are an author and a previous author. You wrote one about Steve Carlton. The story is called Drinking Coffee with a Fork, the story of Steve Carlton and the 72 Phillies. And Jeff, you guys are friends and decided one day, like a couple of knuckleheads who would just start a business together, doesn't talk about me and Joe, and said, hey, let's write a book. What brought that on?
Well, so here's the way it came together, guys, that, right before the pandemic started, I wanted to dig into another sports book. And, I bounced ideas by Jeff. We go back 45 years, fraternity brothers at Gettysburg College, baseball junkies since we were kids. And I thought about a biography and then started talking about a World Series book. And, as we know, there's many very, very well-known, iconic World Series moments. There's Don Larson's perfect game. There's Kirk Gibson's home run in Game 1 of the '88 series. There's Carlton Fisk's home run in Game 6 of the '75 series. And they're absolutely famous moments. They've been written about, talked about so much. What we wanted to do is focus on lesser well-known stories that maybe even hardcore baseball fans are not aware of, and try to find some just offbeat stories, some just outrageous stories. And, initially I asked Jeff to collaborate with me on the book, and for reasons that he's going to explain, he declined. And so I reached out to another friend and started the project with him for a few months, and then Jeff stepped in.
Yeah, Jeff, tell us what made you want to re-sign with Dave, talking baseball terms, and come back and say, you know what, I want to do it now?
Well, so yeah, we did a book signing with Mickey Morandini a couple of weeks ago when I kind of told this story. I said, here I am. I love baseball. I've read every word that Dave has ever written. I go back to the days when he used to type out baseball trivia quizzes on a typewriter, go to the college library, make copies, staple them together, and hand them out to his junkie baseball friends like me. We used to love those things. And that actually kind of morphed into his first book, which was a baseball trivia book that he did with Mitch Williams. And so, flash forward, 45 years, here he's offering me a chance to jump in on something, on a subject that I just really love. I mean, there's a guy that I've known for 45 years. He's got a history of getting books published. And so, like the idiot that I sometimes am, I said, no, thanks. And so, I turned it down. And you don't always get a second bite of the apple, but I was just about to retire after a 35-year career. And it was March and the warm weather was coming, and I saw golf in my future. I saw some traveling with my wife coming. I was like, I just don't want to have any accountability or obligations. And I certainly didn't want to get involved in something and then all of a sudden find out I was letting Dave down because I was unavailable. I couldn't meet, deadlines, and I couldn't get stuff done in time. And as it worked out over the next 9 months, things evolved to the point where the guy that he decided to write it with was out of the picture. And Dave had already written about 5 or 6 of the chapters in the book. And a couple of them were some of the original ideas that he had pitched to me back in the end of 2018. And I love the idea of some of those early chapters. They were really, to me, the ones that encapsulated the theme of the book. Dave will talk a little bit about the 2009 World Series in Cliff Lee in Game 1, the 1973 World Series with the Oakland A's and the New York Mets, and the Charlie Finley shenanigans. And those things really captured my interest and kind of kickstarted my involvement.
So Jeff, you're pretty much the long reliever for Dave's start, huh? Is that what you're telling us with that one?
That's a good way to put it. That's a real good way to put it. That's exactly what happened. And then my role kind of evolved over time, but it's been a blast. It's really been a lot of fun.
So
he was the closer, though. Jeff was the closer.
Jeff
I
was
mean, he saved the day for me.
So how mad was the other friend when you booted him? No, I'm just kidding.
He just disappeared. It was weird. He was so gung ho about it, and then
Jeff might have a hole in the backyard there. His friends disappeared to. He wanted that job.
I do know who he is.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Joe here. First off, I want to say thank you for taking a couple minutes for us and telling us the great things about this book. Now, do each of you have one story that kind of sticks out to each, and it could be the same one that kind of sticks out to you as a favorite in the book? And I'm looking at some of the things that you guys, have in the book. And one of the things that sticks out to me, and one of the stories, is the Jim Joyce story in the, I know I'm going to butcher his name, but I'll stick with his last name, the Galarraga almost perfect game, where it came down to the throw down to first base. He was called safe. It wasn't a perfect game anymore. Then he has to come back, Jim Joyce, and say, you know what, I got the call wrong. And he has to live with that moment for the rest of his life. And it's stories like that, like years down the road now, that people don't remember. So I think it's really cool that you guys are recounting things like that in history with the MLB that people can go back and read. Is there one or two things that kind of stick out to you that's a favorite story of yours in this?
For me, being a lifelong Phillies fan, it's the backstory involving Cliff Lee and his amazing start in Game 1 of the 2009 World Series against the Yankees. As we know, the Phillies won the World Series in 2008, and then mid-season 2009 at the trade deadline, they pick up Cliff Lee from the Indians, who had won the Cy Young Award 2007, and then he quickly becomes a fan favorite, and he pitches great in the National League playoffs, and Charlie Manuel asked him to start Game 1 of the World Series, and it in a nutshell, he that day in the Phillies are staying at a hotel in Manhattan, and most of the players and the manager and coaches go up by bus, but Cliff decides to stay behind and take a cab up a little later in the afternoon. And when he does that, in Upper Manhattan, there is a remarkable traffic jam, and the cabbie calls dispatch and tells Cliff, I think we're not going to get to Yankee Stadium for 2 hours. And the start of the game was about 2 hours away. So, Cliff is sitting in the cab thinking, my God, I've been asked to start Game 1 of the World Series, and I might miss the start because I got stuck in traffic. I mean, just an unbelievable predicament he was in. And, the long and short of it is he called the clubhouse manager for the Phillies. He called his agent. If the cab still didn't move, they suggested, why don't you try to find a police officer and who can drive you up to Yankee Stadium, and that didn't work. And then finally, Cliff, when he's with the Indians, he had taken the subway sometimes to Yankee Stadium, and the New York subway can't be easy to navigate for somebody who's not familiar with the city. But Cliff had done it, and the cab was not that far from one of the subway stations. So Cliff jumped out of the cab, hopped the subway, had to change once, and then he ends up at outside Yankee Stadium. And this was the first year of the new stadium, and he could not find his way into the players' entrance. When he had gone up before, it was the old Yankee Stadium. So again, he called the clubhouse manager for the Phillies, and he told him, hey, I don't know how to get in. And he said, well, listen, why don't you just stand in front of the McDonald's, which is right across the street from the stadium, and we'll send somebody out to get you. And that's what they did. And he ends up arriving not that far before the start of the game. And, I think that all that commotion would have phased a lot of people. They would have been off their game. And Cliff pitched one of the greatest games in World Series history that night with allowing 1 earned run, no walks, 10 strikeouts, just unbelievable. And we interviewed Mark Teixeira, Yankees first baseman, of course, and Mark ended up writing the foreword for the book. And Mark just said it's just one of the greatest pitching performances that he'd ever heard of, and he was not aware of that backstory. And that's just such a wacky, offbeat story. That's a personal favorite of mine.
Anyway, I can give Cliff Lee a little excuse there because we've been at Yankee Stadium. And it's really the layout of the new Yankee Stadium's dumb. I'm just going to put that out there.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I just I never understood it, so I'll give Cliff
I just
Lee a
got
pass.
stranded there.
So go ahead, bud.
Well, yeah, just the other story that I thought, again, really early on, which was a favorite, was the 1973 World Series. And personally, that was one that Dave and I talked about early on before I bowed out. But it just happened that it was with the Mets, and I was old enough to remember all those games by then. They were playing all the weekday games at night. And you had Charlie Finley trying to throw his backup second baseman off the team after he makes 2 errors in the second game of the series, cost the A's the game. They're going back to New York. And before he gets on the plane to come back, he has a doctor write up a letter saying that Mike Andrews, who's the second baseman in question, is unfit to play. And he has him kicked off the team. And he gets Andrews under duress to sign the letter. Andrews doesn't even get on the bus, the plane going back to New York. He flies home to Massachusetts, and the whole team is in an uproar. And then the commissioner of baseball steps in and says, "You can't do this. You can't just make up an injury and say that your guy can't play so that you can have Manny Trio, who was in the farm system." And Charlie Finley really liked him and wanted him on the team to begin with as your second baseman. You can't do that. So they get back to New York, and the A's are warming up at Shea Stadium. They've got armbands for Mike Andrews on their sleeves. The players' union at that point really didn't have any clout. And finally, there was a press conference, and the commissioner of baseball jumped in and undid the whole thing. And then when Andrews comes up in game 4 as a pinch hitter, the New York fans give him a standing ovation, which was a nice poke in the eye at Charlie Finley, who had to sit there and listen to all this. But one of the untold stories, and we didn't put this in the book, even though our agent said, "Hey guys, you can't libel the dead." But Sal Bando had spoken with us a couple of times in writing this chapter. He was originally going to do the foreword for the book before, sadly, he passed away. But he said that, after the game 2, when Andrews blew the game with these 2 errors, we're all on the plane waiting to take off. And Charlie Finley's wife gets on the plane, and she's got these giant sunglasses on, and she's got 2 big black eyes. And we realized that Charlie had beaten his wife after the game.
God almighty.
And so you fast forward to spring training in 1974, and Bando's in uniform on the field. He gets called to go up to Finley's office. They go up there, and he walks in, and Finley just starts breaking down, starts crying, says, "Sal, I've made a terrible mistake. I hit my wife after the game 2 of the World Series, and now she's trying to divorce me. I got to get her back. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what to do." And Bando was just completely stunned, and to the point where he said, "I really didn't even say anything. He just Charlie said all he had to do. He cried his eyes out, and then I left." And but Charlie had a heart attack in August of that year before the World Series, and Sal said because after the heart attack, he became a much meaner guy. Before that, he was almost kind of like a guy that you could go talk your problems out with. He was always had an open door policy for the players, and he wasn't as nasty in contract negotiations. After the heart attack, everything changed, and so that was something that did not go in the book because we were like, it's not really a tell-all book. But it is an interesting story. And we had quite a few of those with all the interviews that we did. So
yeah,
so that was a fun one.
I would absolutely say that you made the right decision not putting that in the book. You don't want to bring anybody down. I mean, that's a pretty awful story. But it's funny that you brought up Cliff Lee and one of the things, and me and Al talk about this all the time. One of the things when Cliff Lee gets, his name gets brought up is, yes, it is the trade, but before the trade, everyone was pounding the table for Roy Halladay, and we really thought it was going to happen. And then Cliff Lee's name comes out, and we got him. And yes, absolutely became a fan favorite. And if I'm being totally honest, he is still to this day one of my favorite Phillies pitchers of all time. And then after that season, we finally get Roy Halladay, and for whatever reason, the Phillies go out thinking that they can't have both of them on the roster for some reason. So then they trade Cliff away. And then Roy goes out and he does his Roy thing. And then the very next season, 2011, they bring back Cliff Lee and they form what we know as R2C2. And one of the biggest blunders to me is, why did they have to trade him? We'll never know what that 2010 season could have come with both of them. And it's just like, that's another story, another thing that probably Phillies fans won't remember, that they could have had those two dominant pitchers for another season if the Phillies just didn't get too much in their head thinking that they couldn't have both of them, and paying for them on the roster.
It was unbelievable. I remember that so well. I mean, Cliff is such a hero to Phillies fans, even though they didn't win the World Series against the Yankees. Cliff was just terrific. And then 2 months after the series ends, he's gone. And as they say, I mean, Halladay was a terrific pitcher for sure, and it was nice that they acquired him, but it was a big letdown when they seemed like, to justify that, they had to trade Cliff Lee, and it was amazing. And then ironically, a year later, they re-signed him to the 5-year contract, and I mean, it's remarkable that with Halladay and Lee and Oswalt and Hamels in the same rotation, that the Phillies got knocked off in the first round of the 2011 playoffs against the Cardinals. I mean, I think that was a kind of a low point in Phillies history.
Oh yeah, that was that's up there with losing to the Bucks in 2002 in my eyes. That was a tough one, and that's also Howard went down.
Yeah,
the last at bat on that one,
and then they still had to pay him $25 million next season.
Yeah, like obviously, but like what made that core group too fun in my eyes, that the four aces, as they referred to them as, was they loved it and they competed internally with each other in a fun way, like because they had a bat still. We all forget pitchers had a bat back in the day. And like they took pride on who had better better average. They had like a running contest with each other throughout the year. So that just made things like just that much more interesting with it. And guys, real quick, why don't we, before we get done here, because I want to mention this, like, why don't we tell everybody where they can find Shadows of Glory?
Yeah, they can buy it in any Barnes and Noble store. It's available online, primarily Amazon, but the publisher site, Roman and Littlefield, the Barnes and Noble site, Books A Million, really pretty much, any site that sells books, it's available. And if you like to go to the store, then, any Barnes and Noble in the area will, carries it.
And I'll tell you guys right now, it's a very easy read too. Great, like with the beach season, I like taking a book on the beach. Kids are playing, doing whatever. You want to sit down and relax. This is a great one to chill out and enjoy. And guys, I want to remind you, when we're done, we will have a post up later tomorrow with all the links in it too for you guys if you want to grab a copy of Shadows of Glory. It's funny because you guys just mentioned you had Mickey Morandini with you guys on the same day that we were doing Wiffle Ball Classic over at Dolan's. So you guys had him in the morning or in the early afternoon, and we had him in the late afternoon. And got to. I just want to know, is he as competitive trying to sell books as he is at Wiffle Ball?
He told some good stories. It sounds like he was really competitive. He and Crucky squared off in Wiffle Ball. Is that?
Yeah.
So
well,
yeah,
they were there. It was Team Kruk versus Team Mickey Morandini.
Kruk was more of a figurehead in this situation. Mickey probably threw about 500 wiffle ball pitches, and he takes it serious. Like, he yells at people. He tells them, "Get out!" Like, you should have that. He takes it. He had he had a long streak running because we've been doing it for 5 years with him now.
He's in great shape too. I mean, the guy doesn't have an ounce of fat on him, and So wish we could say the same. But we're also doing an appearance with Larry Boa coming up at Plymouth Meeting,
Very cool.
Barnes and Noble, the day before Father's Day. So that's going to be June 15th. And Larry's going to be appearing with us starting at noon.
That's awesome. And talk another competitor, another guy who probably takes everything real seriously. But I actually got to know Larry a little bit covering the game at the stadium. You'll see him like walk by, and he's for a very intense guy, he's very approachable too. So don't miss out, people. If you're gonna go down, check it out. And I know you have a book event as well coming up this Saturday, correct?
Yeah, I'll be at the Valley Forge Barnes and Noble from 12 to 3 for anybody who lives in that area. Yeah, please come on out.
Yeah. So yeah, don't
and
miss
if anybody
out.
if anybody wants to get the book through our website, it's Shadows of Glory book.com.
Yes.
And we're going to be launching a 20% off sale starting at the end of this week. And you just have to pop in a code, get your 20% off, and away you go.
There you go, guys. Shadows of Glory. We got Jeff, we got Dave, co-authors. I can ask you guys one question. Was there ever a bone of contention in any part of the book? Like, we should have put this in, or we should have taken this out? How did you guys kind of figure out those moments?
Yeah, I mean, good question. I mean, we did debate. It's 18 chapters in the book, and after we got to like 12, 13, or 14, it became really tough because we wanted to find stories that fit the theme, and we just kept digging and digging and digging, and I think for the most part, Jeff and I agreed that all of these stories belong. I think some people have thought, well, why didn't you include the 91 series with the Twins and the Braves? I mean, that was a tremendous World Series, went 7 games, and look, and I get that, but we just couldn't include every series, and we didn't feel like there was anything quite unique about that series to include. But I understand the argument. So
yes, and the tag for this is memorable and offbeat World Series stories. So it's not just about being a good series or a good win or anything like that, but it's about the hidden stories, the between the line stories that you might not have known about if you weren't there at the time.
Yep, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, you've hit it on the head. And one of the things that our efforts uncovered was that while we were kind of struggling to get to the finish line, I had a conversation with a professor down at the Florida State who taught kind of a race relations course as seen through the lens of baseball and Jackie Robinson. And I asked him, I said, they actually pay you to teach a course about baseball? I said, isn't that, kind of slippery? And he said, well, they figured out after the first class what it's really about. But through that discussion, we decided to write a chapter about one of the Negro League World Series. And we're like, why should we limit ourselves? And sure enough, there was a story in 1942 that's like batshit crazy. I mean, the idea that any World Series could be conducted under those conditions is kind of nuts. You got a World Series that stopped after 4 games because they didn't have a stadium to play in. And then teams go off and go barnstorming. And then one team picks up a couple of ringers from another team, and when they start up the series again, they got the ringers on the field.
It's crazy.
And so then they end up forfeiting the game. They win the game, then they have to forfeit the game. The ringers are taken off the team, and then the series finishes up in yet another city. So it was an effort in patience, but I think it really paid off because in the end, like Dave said, we were pretty much in agreement that the stories that we had really did fit that theme of being kind of offbeat and in some case just bizarre.
And didn't MLB just incorporate the stats?
Yes.
From the Negro League?
Yeah.
Just recently,
yeah,
right?
They did. And I mean, it's amazing when you go in and we were in it pretty deep for a while, and you see things like, the 2 teams that played in that particular World Series in 42 had markedly different schedules. I think one team had played like 45 or 50 games. The other team had played like 85 games. Mm. And so when you start digging deep into that, and then you hear that these records are being incorporated, it really does make you wonder, okay, well, how did they sift through all of this to make sense of it? I mean, there's so little consistency, at least in the way that we think about Major League Baseball today, where every season is 162 games. You know, we know how many at bats a player has to have to qualify for a batting title. For God's sakes, with the analytics, you've got stats that dwarf what was in the public eye 50 or 60 years ago, let alone back when the major leagues, the Negro leagues were in their heyday. So I would love to hear one day the story of how all that came to pass, because I'm sure there's some interesting stuff that they uncovered when they were doing that.
Yeah, that'd be some crazy data entry.
Yeah, that's fascinating. No, that's really
That
fascinating, because the fact that you're bringing up the difference in the games played, I mean, that could have been one of the main reasons why they weren't included up until right now. And then what kind of was the reason that they thought, okay, now is the time for this to happen?
Yeah, I mean, all those questions are fair, and shows like yours are really the perfect place to chat about that, because you guys got a lot of baseball heads listening to these podcasts, and this is the kind of stuff that they dig into. It's surprising. Dave, even more than myself, is into the statistics of the game, but when we talk to people for this book, it's just amazing how deep people go on the historical statistical piece of baseball. It really is. It's kind of fascinating and a little bit weird. So,
Again, guys, we have Dave and
That's
Jeff,
awesome.
and we want to thank co-authors of Shadows of Glory, memorable and offbeat World Series stories. Like I said, I just started reading it, I'll be honest with you, and I picked it about a quarter of the way through it, and very much enjoying it. It's very easy to get lost in too. So it's one of you're like, again, if you're like, I'm not much of a reader, but if you are a baseball fan, this is one that won't take long to read, but you will definitely be happy you did, especially for what Joe and I do. We cover sports, all of them, Philly sports mainly, but the history does play a lot into it, and
Sure.
it does help out a lot. So I can't wait to finish this, and I will put out a little review of it once I am done it. So, guys, Dave and Jeff, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Again, pick up Shadows of Glory at shadowsofglorybook.com, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and pretty much anywhere you can buy books these days. And I believe it's digital too, correct, boys?
Yep.
All right, guys.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you for
Thanks a
joining
lot,
us, guys.
Al. Thanks a lot, Joe.
guys,
Much
thanks.
appreciated.
Thanks,
Great
guys.
talking
Really
to you.
appreciate your time.
Take it easy. All right, guys, that was Dave and Jeff, and they wrote the great book Shadows of Glory, which I have a copy of here, and it's
Yeah, I'm certainly going to get one. I mean, definitely after talking to these guys, I have a even bigger interest in this. It does help knowing the authors and having a dialogue with them. Before jumping into the book, I feel like if I read the book,
Mhm.
I would have had a little bit more to bring to it.
Yeah.
But not knowing
We can definitely
everything
bring
that's
them
in
back
it,
on.
right, well, of course,
Yeah.
but me not knowing everything and knowing bits and pieces and knowing that these guys, they seem like they're really good storytellers.
Yeah,
So I can't wait to read this.
like I said, Dave Brown he's actually was an author of 6 previous books. And he's from downtown. He's a local guy.
Yeah, awesome.
But the one book
We love
was
locals.
yeah, and the one book he did write was about the 72 Phillies. It was called Drinking Coffee with a Fork.
Yes.
Steve Carlton and the 72 Phillies, which I didn't know existed. So guess what I'm buying now? As
Looks
soon
like
as
I got 2 books on the list
yeah,
now.
well, you know what? The funny thing is, and I said this when we were talking to them, is I'm not an avid I read articles,
Sure.
you know, on my phone, on websites, on eopsports.com. A lot
Knowing
of
that it's digital is big for me.
yeah, it is. It does make it a lot easier because you know what? I could. I'm not bringing my book with me to work, but if I have a 15-minute break,
Sure.
I can pick up my phone, and I'll go back and forth. I've done that. I've actually do that with some books. I'll have the digital.
Well, sometimes you don't have the physical copy on
Yeah.
you and you want to jump into a chapter while you're on lunch or something like that.
Mhm.
Having the digital as well is perfect.
But yeah, because I reread actually very few times that I reread books. Because once I get it, it's pretty much in the old noggin.
Yeah.
But the Roy Halladay one, the doc,
The doc.
very good book. Really got real in depth in some stuff, and really a lot of things that we always know about.
It uncovered a lot.
Yeah, it opened your eyes to a lot. Like after we found out, after his demise and all
Sure.
that stuff, and the demons that he fought and all that
Reading
stuff.
that and then seeing the documentary, like, and kind of putting the 2 and 2 together, the
Yeah.
stories with that, aligning with what was being told in this in the documentary. It's really wild.
And a lot of people felt that his reputation was tarnished after how it all went down and
No.
all that stuff. But listen, man, everybody deals with
Shit happens,
demons,
man.
and like when you see it, like I said, his dad built a pitching mound in their basement. The guy was like throwing 90 pitches before dinner, like just so they wouldn't skip a beat. Like that guy probably threw more pitches before he hit the minor leagues than most people do in their entire career, just from that
Little
reason.
known fact: Roy Halladay went hitless in his basement.
There you go. He was undefeated in his basement.
That's right.
Until his dad came down,
He
sort of wailing
always
on him.
pitched a perfect game
There you go.
in his basement.
But no, I mean, guys got to check out Shadows of Glory. Dave and Jeff are really great guys, as you can tell, and we're probably gonna have them back on again because, like I said, I'm gonna read this. I might even just write an article about the book itself because, I'm a Philly sports fan. I only want to know about Philly sports, but this all kind of does interweave into our, it's like things that you never know about, like that story. Like it might have been a little risque for his book, but I'm not saying it wouldn't be interesting to find out like the dark side of things.
Absolutely. And back then, stories like that doesn't come out. Nowadays, it's the first thing you're scrolling through on Twitter.
Yeah.
Anything that happens. Oh, guess what? 4 or 5 guys got banned the other day for MLB gambling.
Yeah.
We knew that within seconds of it happening.
Yeah, that guy's wife had a black eye before she hit the limo. He would have been crucified social media wise. And rightfully so, don't get me wrong. But my point is like there is a lot of stuff that, good, bad, and ugly, that we don't and like I said, they in the kind of the breakdown about the book, they give you some bullet points. The unheralded pitcher who carried a no-hitter into the 9th inning. The umpire received death threats after making a bad
Jim
call.
Joyce, that's exactly what I was talking about.
Key role that
Garcia Parra. I knew I was going to butcher his name, but there we go. Garcia Parra.
The key role that shoe polish played in the outcomes of 2 different series, and a player who left the stadium mid-game to drive his pregnant wife to the hospital. So, yeah, a lot of things. Like, I mean, we hear these stories now. I mean, remember Jason Kelsey's wife was about to burst with their last kid. They had to they paid the doctor to come out to the Super Bowl with them in 2022. Right. So yeah,
they were in headlines recently too.
Yeah,
or she was.
Yeah, what an idiot.
Delco.
Last bottle of wine, man.
Delco.
Should have just stayed away. Last couple of glasses she should have stayed away from.
Delco.
Speaking of Delco, why don't we, before we get into the rest of the show, Delco Day was a huge success, so thank you for everybody who came out, guys who participated. We'll actually have the final tally of that soon, but I can tell you right now.
Very cool.
It is north of 25K. So, Joe, do you want to come over here and pick? I'm just going to.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Mix it up. Keep talking so we don't have dead air. So this one, like I said, signed up for it, is in the raffle, was at Delco Day, and are going to win one of Joe's pair of Joe's tickets. So close your eyes, Joe, as you pick it, because it is a clear container because I didn't have any other container to use. All right. Is that one? That is one. Want me to? Yeah, go over there and read it. I don't know how much information they put on there. Just don't put their phone number out there. All right. We got a name and a phone number. All right, just give us the name.
All right, we have Steve Doherty.
Steve Doherty.
His number is 61032.
Yeah, new.
Congratulations, Steve. We will be in contact, and I will get those tickets over to you.
Yeah, Steve, we will contact you tomorrow. So congratulations.
I know a lot of Dohertys in the area.
Yeah.
So this might be.
God only knows. I know. Might as well be Steve Smith at this point.
Very true.
But guys, so before we get, we want to change gears a little bit. Talk a lot of baseball tonight, which as well we should. Baseball is the hot topic in Philadelphia right now. But mandatory camp is going on for the Eagles, Joe.
Yes, sir.
We've been posting out some stuff from our boy Al Thompson, the football stories, and part of Edge of Philly Sports. He is a credential writer who is down at these mandatory camps.
Right. He's our credential writer.
That's right.
Down there.
And he is covering and getting some great tidbits, which I actually have some of the audio here if we need to talk about certain parts of it. But the one part I really, because again, part and partial to the lineman, but the Clint Hurt.
Yeah.
By the way, can he play line still? Man is a beast. He's
a
wall
monster.
He's just a wall, and I think he was the best choice just for Jordan Davis and probably Jalen Carter's situation alone.
Sure.
Because to balance that big man to athlete situation, we all saw it. I mean, Baldy was on the record of just saying he was out of shape by the end of the season. And reminder, like they said, he's down to a slim 350 now. or a trimmed 350.
Jesus Christ!
But remember when he had that?
How can 350 be slim?
Well, is it muscular 350?
I know. I mean, I get it. That's still.
I'm not
that's
like
a
I'm not
hefty
calling
boy.
anybody fat, but like look at Lane Johnson compared to like some of the other linemen.
solid.
He's ripped,
Yeah.
like for a guy his size. So, you know, when he ran that like crazy 40 in his in the combine when he was before the draft, they had him at 340, 341. Now he's down.
Oh, okay.
Now he's
Got it.
down to 3. So what was he last year?
Well, I guess you can say he trimmed the fat and put the muscle on. And we all know muscle weighs more than fat. So, I mean, he could have put 10 or 15 pounds of muscle on.
Sure. And that's true. That's another thing. Like he might have, if he just lost weight, he might have got down to like 325, 330, 340, something like that. But maybe because it's more muscular, it's, you know, it kind of pops it back
balances
up.
out.
But just goes to show you how
looks different.
They did say a trim 350, so I think that's what they mean. It's more muscle than it is. But I mean, if that, like, what he would lose a little bit with maybe, I don't even know if it's strength, but just the weight, the size, he's probably going to gain back in quicker twitches. Speed.
Absolutely.
And I do have
he's gonna have a quicker get off.
I do have the quick moments that Clint Hurt you know, changing his vocabulary very quickly during it when talking about Jordan Davis here.
Is just being in the best shape that he possibly can be in, and he's taking huge strides with that this offseason. And it's still it's a work in progress, but he's off to a really, really good start. If he's in great condition and he can play all out to, you know, not using bad language, but to the wall, if you get my drift on that, then he's going to be a hard guy to block. You know,
can't say balls.
Huge man, long arms, strong. He can get up and down and make tackles in the tackle box. The number one thing for him is conditioning. Can he be in great shape? We're off to a nice start with that.
See, he missed an opportunity there. Yeah. He could have said football's to the wall.
Yeah.
Come on, Clint.
And I guess he's a new guy in here. He doesn't want to piss off the upper management, so he wanted to curb his comments. Because, I mean, a lot of players don't care. We've heard him drop plenty of F-bombs.
Nolan Smith was dropping S-bombs the other day.
Actually, who was it? I actually have it on here.
Who do we have from today? We had Clint, we had Nick, we had Isaiah.
Well, this one we didn't post earlier, but this one actually, they bleeped them out for us.
Really?
It was actually Jordan Davis about playing under Fangio.
Okay.
So here you go.
Nope. And hope y'all can bleep that out. But like it's really no BS with every straight ball. You know, some people like it for better or for worse. I play with all types of coaches from high school, college. I mean, Kirby Smart's the worst of the worst, so not the worst of the worst, but he's you know, he's old school. You get what it's suspended on. You know it's a job to do. You gotta do your job. If you don't do it, then it's a miss. So you know, even from like Coach Clint, like detail oriented. If we mess up on the details, we gotta go again. And it's not just saying like, you know, you're getting that extra rep, you're just doing it just to do it. You're doing it for improvement. You're doing it to make sure that you get it down, you get it right. And if we get it right, I mean, you do it right. If you do it wrong, you do it wrong. So it's either one way to do it, and that's just to do it correctly.
I like it.
I like that we have that old school defensive coach, the no shits given type guy. Like,
it's about time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, somebody I forget.
You think he could bring back the old Jim Johnson flair?
I think he's already doing that. I mean, you brought in guys like him and Christian Parker, who's a younger guy, but like guys who have that old school mentality.
Sure.
Like Jordan Davis just said, like if they do it wrong, they're going to do it again, and then they're going to do it again. I mean, if you remember, not back, who was it? The former D lineman that was playing for the Niners last year, the Eagles. He was on our D line before. He was our nose guard.
Oh, Javon Hargrave.
Hargrave, yeah. And they kind of, I don't know. They said he took his words out. He said they took his words out of context, but he kind of compared workouts and practices and all that stuff from Niners to Eagles, and said ours was a little lighter. And I wonder. I kind of came to the conclusion is, were the Eagles, number one, did they take it too light that they had two young new coordinators who have really no background, you know, real background in what they've done, coming off of Super Bowl years, just thinking they didn't have to do too much and maybe took it a little too easy preseason?
Well, BG went on the record, I believe it was today.
Yes.
He said that they did not have the correct coaches in place last season. And I think them being upfront and honest about that I think it's very good for them because listen, we watch it. We know the game. Like it didn't pass the eye test for us. We knew that this stuff was going on, even though they can't say it at the time. The fact that they're saying it now, we're all like, yes, we know. I appreciate you saying it. Like we know what was going on, and I don't think it's a bad thing that they said it.
No, and we all knew it.
And what Javon Hargrave said.
Yeah.
No S, or I'll just say no shit.
No
we
shit,
know.
yeah.
We know. We know that they were babying you guys a little bit. It's not the two of days of Andy Reid. It's not the hard nose of Jimmy Johnson. I mean, we know. And now it just seems like the old school mentality is coming back, and this team's going to be ready.
Adam wants to know: do we think if Nick Sirianni is Nick Sirianni's last straw if he does not work if it does not work this year? What he's trying. I guess he's saying, do you think if he's out, if they have a collapse like they did last year? I think so. If it's a collapse like last year, if they don't have a great year, it really just depends on what it is. Did Jalen Hurts not play up to his snuff, but everybody else was? Did the defense get really bad, fall apart? Was it one of the coordinators? Was the offense not as jazzy as we would like it to be? It really does depend on what the problem is. But if it's a complete collapse like it was last year, I think so.
I got to go opposite of you because if they thought that it was one more year, let's see what happens, and then he's, walking the plank, like I feel like that they should have just done it last year when they cleaned house. Because this year going forward, again, new OC, new DC, and both of them are going to have more of a role than what the Cy and Brian Johnson had last year. So now it's even more of a, well, it's not Nick's fault this season when he doesn't have his hands all over the offense and the defense. It's Kellen Moore's show on the offense and it's Vic Fangio's show on the defense. You can't blame Nick Sirianni going into another season with new coordinators when he's going to have even less of it.
Yeah.
So you can't, like, he cannot be the scapegoat for that. Like,
he can be if they want him to be.
If it was, well, of course, but if it was collapse, historic or not, and Nick's gone, and then you still have the same OC and DC going forward for whatever years it is, like, and I don't think it's fair to do it. Like, if you were going to get rid of Nick, you should have done it with everybody last season.
True. I mean, I still think if Belichick worked out, he would be here over Nick Sirianni. I mean, everybody kicked the tires on him though, but nobody picked him up, so it makes me wonder there. Right. Somebody would have been paid him whatever.
I mean,
he
of
wanted.
Course, and there was rumors that Belichick wanted to be here.
Yeah.
I mean, and again,
think about it.
If Nick was on the hot seat and you have Belichick and two offensive and a new defensive and offensive coordinator coming in, why not just do it all at one time?
Well, I also think part of the problem for Belichick coming here was the biggest question for the Eagles wouldn't be probably a paycheck or anything like that. But no, it's for them. It would be, would they want another Chip Kelly situation? Because it would be kind of like
true.
that.
That's true.
I mean, he likes to have a lot of control, and that might be why he never got picked up this year, is because he wanted that control that nobody wanted to give up. I mean,
does it also step on the toes of Vic Fangio as well, coming in with such a
I don't know if he would have been
prominent defensive mind.
I don't know if he would have been hired because they probably would have said, "I'm hiring my guys."
Right.
I don't. Again, if he wants control, I don't think he's going to let you pick unless he was.
That's fair.
He was interested in having Fangio. Probably would have been Matt Patricia again.
Yeah, they did the right thing.
So I'm glad it wasn't Belichick. To be honest with you.
Me too.
Me too.
I like Nick. I don't care what anyone says. I like Nick.
I like Nick. I worry a little bit. He's a little too
cocky. I like it.
I don't mind.
Shrewd. I like it. In your face. I like it. Taunting. I like it.
I don't hate it. It's not even just that. When he said, it reminded me of that part from Office Space when they're interviewing all the people.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, "What do you do?" He's like, "I bring the numbers from the people to the accountant or whatever." And he's like, "Well, couldn't the people just give it right to the accountants?" But I'm a people person.
Right.
That's kind of the feeling I got from him when he talked. So I feel like a good leader, like a good president or a good coach or anything, you have really good guys underneath you,
Right.
who do their job great and allow you to do your job. Like, we all know Andy Reid is calling the plays for the most part in Kansas City. But that just works for him, A, because he's Andy Reid, and B, because he has Patrick Mahomes with him.
Right.
But we all know that doesn't really work everywhere else. And give Nick credit, because when he tried it early on, he didn't let it keep simmering and keep trying to beat that drum, and it wasn't working. He said, "Let me give it up." And they made the right. They made the right move, moving to Steichen, and unfortunately,
Steichen did too well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the problem when you have these young coordinators. I mean, it's great. Like, does Kellen Moore want to be a head coach? I think so. But
he might get his chance after running this offense,
and he might. He just might. But I don't think you're going to lose both coordinators this year. I think Fangio.
I think Fangio wants to be in this role. I don't
Yeah.
think he's looking to be the head guy anywhere.
Yeah, I think his next step is retirement.
Yeah.
It's like Jim Schwartz. I'm telling you, when they brought in Jim Schwartz before they brought in Doug Peterson, they probably whispered in his ear, like, if this Doug experiment doesn't work,
you're the guy.
You're the guy. And he probably was like, kind of wanted to be, then didn't want to be after a bit. Maybe he wanted to be after they won the Super Bowl. He figured, like, all right, it's time now. I can take the role. But I mean, he's had opportunities, I'm sure, since then, and didn't take it. So, I mean, I think that, like, that's what I think gives Kansas City a real jolt. And Patrick Mahomes aside, of course, is that you do have a consistent OC, which is technically your head coach in this case, and you have Spags.
Yeah.
Who isn't going anywhere, who isn't trying to get a job, being a head coach anywhere. So there's that consistency that plays a huge factor. And you've always been one of the most, no matter what sport it is, banging the drum of consistency, how it plays a bit. Because, a little talking about the Sixers in the same conversation, but it makes sense, is a lot of people are excited, and as you should be, that they have this kind of clean slate and they can really bring the pieces in. And, the biggest question is, do they do it right? Do they just go old superstars, or do they, bring in great role players, which I'm hoping the latter, but whatever the fact of the matter is.
Well,
but like, again, even if they bring in the best, like they build the best team possible with the resources that they have, can 1 year do it? And is that why they're talking about Joel Embiid extensions?
They can't do that. They can't do it. 2 years left on his contract, giving him another 3 years for 193 or whatever it is. They're already giving Maxey 5 years at 205 or so. And you still have to have money to move around. There's no way that they can do all that. Real quick on the Nick Sirianni thing, to what you don't like, obviously I'm saying I do like, I think it's the perfect fit for Philadelphia.
Oh, it is.
This guy,
from the talking standpoint,
he did his presser. He did his presser today in a Phillies hat.
Yeah.
He gets it. He absolutely gets it. And what did he say in that presser? What would he say to Giants fans? We got your best player. I love that.
Yeah, of course.
There you go.
Man, Saquon on our side making the guy miss. Sometimes you see Giants fans around here with the, being so close. And they give me a good, like, hey, go Giants. And I'd typically let it go. But if the guy gets me good enough, I'll probably usually say, that's your best player.
That's what I'm saying. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Listen, I don't mind.
I'm Team Sirianni all day long.
I don't mind that part as much. I just worry about. I'm just hoping he's not all cheerleader.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. But when you hear about the stories of him bringing players in for the draft, and what do? They have a shoot around. They play basketball.
I think that's
I
great.
think thinking outside the box, getting people to kind of like to just kind of ease their mind and just have a buddy type of conversation, but still like try and test them on stuff. I think it's a great approach to go to things.
Yeah, no.
You want to talk about the sprinkling of the roots in the grass and the dandelions, whatever the hell it was. He's quirky. I get it. I'm all right with it.
I think he gets like lost in his mouth. Like
that could happen too.
He just starts going in one direction and tries to redirect traffic, and then it just doesn't pan out.
Yeah,
which is whatever. That's whatever. Like, everybody was crucifying him after his first presser with us. This guy's
the Rochambeau.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different. I like it.
My like I said,
my guy.
My thing I worry about is, does the players respect
and you
it?
should be on his side.
Why?
Because you guys are so full on Italian.
And
Sirianni.
Yeah, we almost rhyme, right? But my thing with it is, I just worry about number one, does he have the respect of the team, or is he just a cheerleader to them?
I do think that.
And is he
going
to make the right calls? Like, I don't mind him going in the Chiefs locker room and screaming at guys as he's walking into the tunnel
Right.
and all that. I'm okay with that. And he was juiced up. Everybody had us for a loss. It's the great and powerful Kansas City Chiefs and
Right.
Patrick Mahomes, and we just lost.
Revenge game.
Yeah, we just lost to them in the Super Bowl. When we had that game, we should have had
It's not
that
really.
game.
I mean, I know that we want to say it's a
No.
revenge game.
Well,
but
it's just like
no, they got a Lombardi when they beat us. We
Well-
got bragging, or we didn't even get bragging rights. They still got a Lombardi over us.
yeah, like it's like the San Francisco situation. That wasn't a revenge game for them. I mean, they got to beat the living piss out of us. Don't get me wrong, but that won them a game.
Right.
We got to go to the Super
we
Bowl.
got to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so there is a big difference. But Joe, let me ask you this question: who is the one player that you're really paying attention to, and seeing they can be a difference maker this year?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Well, the one I'm hearing about, I'm really been.
Come back to
it. Kind of turned my eye towards is Isaiah Rodgers.
That's a good one.
Because
That's a really good one.
we all know he had off last year because of the whole gambling thing. You did see how, like, when he found out, he had like a recording from his, I guess it was his ring cam or whatever. He had his Eagles. He goes,
Yeah.
"I'm back."
I'm back. Yeah.
You
know who I'm really sorry not to cut you off, but you know who I'm really intrigued by?
Who?
I'm really intrigued by Devin White.
I am,
because he's still very young. He may have just needed a change of scenery.
Sure.
It's a position that we really need. Like, of course, we have Nakobe, and we want him to step up. I just read something that Devin White had an interception in practice the other day, which I love to see. But then again, it's like it's off Jalen Hurts, even though it was tipped. Blah, besides the point. I'm very intrigued because even though it's a 1-year deal for Devin White, he's still very young. I still think that he's very talented. I do think that he could have a bounce back season. And I mean, I'm interested to see if he does enough to get an extension or, at the end of the season, get a new contract. Like, linebacker is such a question mark right now. I mean, even Zach Braun, we don't know if he's going to be more of a guy coming off the edge or if he's going to, be back in coverage. Like, again,
he's a versatile guy.
I'm very intrigued with Devin White right now.
Devin White's a good one because, like you said, is he that change of scenery? We will get the Devin White that we know that can be there, or are you going to have the continued Devin White struggles? And like you said, a very big need in this. And I'm kind of high. I know with injuries and everything like that. But I really think you could get Trotter Jr.
That's a great one
to be not.
I think he'll be a special teamer.
Yeah,
year
maybe
one.
in the beginning. Not like an all-pro linebacker.
I hear he's doing well in camp though,
but,
in the OTAs and camp.
But a consistent guy, like that's my thing. Is like that's all I want from there because I don't expect any of these guys to be some world beater.
And the other guy, I guess, on the other side of the ball, I can say is it's got to be Tyler Steen because there were a lot of question marks, not only about just right guard, but Tyler Steen in general because of his size. The draft capital they put into him 2 seasons ago, is he just going to be depth? But then you see, Statland come out in an article, I believe it was yesterday or 2 days ago, and he's kind of comparing him to Brandon Brooks. And he's saying
there's also reports out there that he hasn't had a great camp. Now, listen, judging O-line and D-line play right now is really difficult. There's no pads. They're doing more drills and things like that. You could judge secondary versus wide receivers because they're actually going up the battle for the ball and all that stuff a little bit better in these moments. But there has been reports that him and who else? I forget who they said was kind of struggling.
Tyler Keegan.
Was it Keegan? Was he the other
Trevor
one?
Keegan.
Yeah, I know it wasn't Tyler, but yeah. Was Keegan the other one? I forgot.
I'm not sure. Or maybe
and they did
Dylan...
bring in that Max Sharping.
Sharping, yeah.
And so they continue.
They
continue to sign depth.
He's a 3-year starter, I believe, with the Bengals. But I mean, they also brought in Matt Hennessy in the offseason. So they do have a lot of options.
I actually was like, keep my eye on that one.
Yeah.
But
I think it's more.
Steen comes out struggling.
He's got more experience at center, though.
Yeah, and it's probably another reason he could be backing up Juergens if Juergens struggles.
100%.
Because that you have to have a safety net for your safety net because you don't know. Because you're going to have drop off, so it's going to be a hard comparison because you literally have one of the best centers in football, if not the best center in football.
If they do not have any drop off, does that say a little bit about Jason Kelce, or does that say that Cam Juergens is the real deal?
I think it's more about Cam Jurgens is the real deal. And
That's
remember,
the right
he was
answer.
handpicked by Jason
He
Kelce,
was.
so Jason could see a lot of him in Jurgens, and it says more to me, if anything, about Stoutland.
Yeah.
Like if they can plug and play guys and still have one of the top O lines, and I mean, you still have the bookends in Mailata and Johnson.
We did see Cam Jurgens play center in the limited preseason last season, and we saw him pull. We saw him. He played very well in preseason.
Level.
Yeah, he got to the second level quick. I'm pretty confident in this guy right now.
Yeah, Adam said he wants to see Cooper DeJean.
I was trying to keep the rookies out of it.
Yeah, I mean,
but of course I want to see Cooper DeJean.
They're kind of in the conversation because of the log jam that they have.
I know.
And,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, by the way, talking about the log jam in the secondary is we saw James Bradberry lining up with the safeties the other day.
All 72 seconds.
Yeah. That he had to leave the field.
Do you think he didn't want to do it and he faked the injury?
I hope not.
Well, listen,
I really hope not.
I really hope he puts his best foot forward no matter what he does, because it ain't going to be here. Like I said, everybody thought he was going to be cut June 1st. I knew he wasn't going to be cut June 1st. It makes no sense to cut him June 1st.
I agree.
Because you keep him, you see if you can get something out of him. Somebody has an injury, and maybe they're willing to take him off your hands, and you can unload his contract and maybe get a player or a late round pick or something for him.
This is something that the Eagles rarely ever had. Options in the secondary.
Yeah.
It's one of their strengths right now.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you could have said that? In 2001?
Yeah, no.
When they drafted Shepard and Taylor?
Yeah, it's been quite some time since you've had that depth, because it was like your player goes down, it's Cravon LeBlanc.
Right.
It's like who, it's like you have.
We were shocked when Marcus Epps left the Eagles.
Yeah, like, what are you guys doing? Marcus Epps.
Marcus Epps went to the Raiders. We're like, oh no, what are we gonna do? Yeah. We're worried about Marcus Epps leaving the Eagles.
Yeah, that's bottom. That's straight from the bottom there, my friend. But
nothing against Marcus Epps.
Yeah, but the secondary is stacked in personnel. But the question is, are they stacked? Can Quinyon Mitchell, can Cooper DeJean, can they produce?
Yeah.
All at this level right away, or are we gonna have to wait and see and have guys like Isaiah Rodgers, like Avonte Maddox, and all that kind of stuff step up and step in and play the role until these guys get some? Because if you think about it, it's kind of I don't say it's unfair, but it's tough because the first game is in an international game in Brazil. Being a young guy and a single guy in Brazil can be getting you in a lot of trouble real quick, and it's your first taste of NFL action outside of, the preseason workout game, workouts.
Now thinking more about the secondary, whose name keeps coming up is Keely Ringo, and he's lining up opposite of Slay.
Yeah,
and we already know the draft capital they gave up for him. I mean, we're all thinking it's either going to be Quinyon Mitchell or James Bradberry opposite Slay. That's not the way it's looking right now. It's looking like it could be Keely Ringo, and we really don't know where the hell everybody else goes, because of course CJ GJ is back. Sidney Brown will eventually come back. I think that they have plans for him. Of course, Reed Blankenship. And who the hell am I just thinking of? They have another safety. And James Bradberry possibly being a safety.
Yeah.
Like if James Bradberry becomes, I guess, or he looks good enough to take some snaps at safety, like, are you keeping him there? Like, what do you do with all these guys?
I honestly think James Bradberry doesn't play at all in the regular season for us.
No,
I think they put on a.
But then why risk injury with him out on the field right now? Which it looks like he's already injured.
Because you're going to be stuck with him one way or the other.
Well, no, you either cut him or you could possibly trade if somebody goes down in the camp.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm saying. They're going to see if they can prove that last year was a fluke and the whole team was just suffering and he was one of those players, and he's actually better than people think. And your team has a gap there now because you got an injury or two to deal with. You're willing to take on his contract so you wouldn't be down another player.
Right.
Yeah, like I said, it's like a Sam Bradford situation.
I actually think if they trade him, they save like $1.2 million. So I mean, it's either cut him for, I think they lose like $3 million, or trade him and save 1.2. Like, it really doesn't even makes sense to keep him on the roster at this point.
No,
And I'm not saying that because I don't like James Bradberry or think that he could have a bounce back season. I'm saying it because I don't know where the hell they play him.
No,
especially with what they've done adding and subtracting from that position.
And I agree with you. That's why I think it's putting on a performance to get him out of here.
Well, that performance got him injured, and not at the position that he is on the roster
one way
for.
or the other. So I mean, I don't blame him for trying. We're going to bubble wrap him and say, please take him off my hands because it ain't going to happen.
Right, and it's mandatory. He had to be there anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, the only person who wasn't that mandatory was Landon Dickerson, but apparently made concessions months ago. Told him that some personal thing he has to deal with is going on. So, but everybody else was there. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who makes the cut and who gets traded away or anything like that.
Before we close up,
yeah,
you know who wasn't at camp for the Jets?
Yes,
Hassan Reddick.
Because he wants his contract.
Right, and everybody was saying, "Oh well, he'll show up. It's not about his contract." What are you saying now?
He thought when he got paid for the Jets, there was going to be a contract to come right after it.
And that's that is honestly what I think he was promised.
Now, there was like some rumors swirling around last year that they weren't willing to pay him as much as he wanted because he kind of dropped off and they felt like he was just trying to pad his stats and work for the contract.
I did remember someone saying. I remember the padding of the stats.
I don't think Hassan Reddick's a bad guy, but do you think
he's making $15 million? I mean,
yeah. No, I'm saying, but do you think there was a reason for that? Maybe they're just like, we're seeing some things we don't like. We don't, they're not saying it to him, but we're just saying things we don't like, and we're just not liking.
I mean, it's funny that Bryce Huff came from the Jets and Reddick went to the Jets.
Yeah.
Huff got money from the Eagles. Hassan Reddick did not get money from the Jets. I mean, you're right. It could tell you something. And again, I go back to this. This is Hassan Reddick's 4th or 5th team in not a lot of years.
Yeah.
What's he been in the league? 6 years? 7?
7. Yeah.
And this is his.
Well, he was in Carolina.
He was in Carolina. He was in Arizona, Eagles, now Jets. This is his 4th team in 6 years, 7 years.
Yeah.
There's something going on. And it's like it's not like he hasn't had double-digit sacks 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
He put up 19, like the Super Bowl year. He put up 19 and a half sacks, including the playoffs. And
good point.
What is going on?
It's just like one of those things that it goes back to like the Taiwan Walker situation in the playoffs. Like, why couldn't he sniff the field?
You know what? It's almost like the whole Malcolm Jenkins thing.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm Jenkins wanted a contract, played his last year, or was going to play his last year. In the interviews, no, not worried about money. I'm coming. I'm here to play, blah, blah, blah. And then what happens? He doesn't show up, and he says it's because of his contract. He did a complete 180. This is what happens.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's going to say one thing outwardly.
And then Malcolm got cut. He got cut or traded.
He went back to the Saints.
I know, but did he get cut or traded? Either way, his ass was booted from the city of brotherly love.
People were talking about bringing him back last year.
Yeah, I think for like an emergency role or something.
Yeah, like it was like later in the season because they were just hoping maybe it would spark the team.
Yeah.
There was nothing sparking that team last year. They turned into a dumpster fire.
I still blame the coaches.
I blame, a lot. And Adam did ask, we didn't really talk about it, but real quick, did Sirianni lose the locker room at all last year? He did lose the locker room. I mean, it was not just Sirianni, but I'm not saying he lost the locker room to the point where he could never get it back, but there was a moment that nobody believed in anything that team was doing. You could see it. You had a lot of guys going through motion. Some guys trying to keep it together.
I really don't think he did.
I do.
I think it really came down to Desai being sidelined and Patricia being thrown in there and the whole thing just becoming a cluster F. And Brian Johnson with such little experience. Like, that's the thing. AJ and Jalen will call their own plays on the field and not listen to Brian Johnson. That's not a Nick Sirianni thing.
Kind of.
And then when you have Soleil and some of the other players who didn't respect Patricia and what happened with Desai, that's not a Nick Sirianni thing.
Kind of is. You're the head coach.
I mean, these are grown-ass men. What's he going to do?
Go up to him and say, if you don't do as you're told, you're off.
Nah,
you're benched.
I don't think anyone can do that, to be honest with you. These guys make all the money. I don't think that Nick Sirianni is going up and telling them what to do.
Well, that might be why my cheerleader situation is where it sits in the back of my head, because they don't respect him enough. There should be enough respect. Do you think they would ever do that to Andy Reid? Do you even think Patrick Mahomes would supersede Andy Reid if they were struggling like that?
I don't think the Andy Reid now. I think the Andy Reid of the early 2000 Eagles. I think that absolutely could happen.
Okay. But I'm just saying, like, there's a respect factor here. There's like, we talked about Fangio. He's more that old school, gruff,
Yeah.
in your face defensive coordinator, not like these young guys, who hug him up and love him up. And there is got to be somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? Like, I remember when Torts was right before Torts was hired here, and they were looking for a new coach. I said I wanted somebody from one of the more recent championship teams, more one of the
Sure.
maybe assistant coaches or something like that, up and coming guys, because I wanted somebody who could work with these young guys and understand them. And I thought Torts might have been a little bit past his prime, kind of like I feel like Bill Belichick is. I think his time has come and gone.
Okay.
And
that's
where I worry
probably not
about
wrong.
on the opposite side with Nick Sirianni. Do they not respect him enough? And is he too much of a cheerleader? So when it comes down, it's like when a parent's too buddy with a kid, and then it comes down to be a parent, and they got to get in their face, and they don't respect what they say because they've been too friendly with them the whole time. So that's one of the hardest parts about being a coach is just balance, like where they respect you, but they also feel comfortable with you.
But I got two examples for you that will annihilate what the hell you just said.
Okay.
The two people that retired this year, Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelce.
Yes.
Do you remember Fletcher Cox being at his locker and somebody asked him, off the top of my head, I can't remember who it was, but somebody asked him about Nick Sirianni.
Sure.
And is Nick Sirianni going to get fired? And he looked at him with disgust on his face. And he said, what? He said, you a clown. He said, well, nobody's talking about Nick getting fired. And he stuck up for Nick right away. And Jason Kelce did the same exact thing. Brandon Graham has been on that fence too, saying, no, it's not Nick Sirianni. I'm coming back for one more year if you'll have me. These guys are not going to go out and stick their necks out for Nick Sirianni and be that visually upset and disgusted by what somebody is asking them about Nick Sirianni losing their job. I don't believe that's fluff. I think that is honestly heartfelt.
I'll push back on it, and I'll tell you why.
But you're wrong.
They said the same thing about it wasn't Brian Johnson's fault. They also said it was the same thing. It wasn't the size fault. And now look at Brandon Graham today.
I never hear.
We didn't have the right
I didn't hear
guy
any of
in the
that.
right spot.
I didn't hear anything of that.
Yeah, exactly.
I only heard about it from Nick Sirianni.
Yeah. My point is, they're going to defend. And listen, Kelce and Fletch didn't make their decisions at that point that they were coaches. There's a good chance they're going to be back. So the last thing they're going to do is throw the head coach under the bus. But if something they could say that, and then the next day the Eagles could have fired Nick Sirianni, and they would have just been like, they would back the next guy. They're leaders. That's what they do.
Oh, actually, Fletcher Cox told the team in the locker room before the game that it was his last ride. So he did know he was retiring, and he still put his neck out there for Nick Sirianni.
All right. But I still, listen, they said the same thing about the other guys.
I'm sorry, what?
They said the same thing about the other guys, and then now they're throwing them under the bus today. BG did it today. So, I mean, listen, there's a difference about losing the locker room totally, and there's no way getting it back. But there is a time when you lose control of the locker room, and maybe the respect of some players that there's not 1-2 people can pull it all back together, because that team was trying.
But if you're Jeffrey Lurie and Harry Roseman, and you have this roster, and if you have any inkling that this guy has lost the locker room, especially knowing that you're firing the entire coaching staff, why bring him back?
2 reasons. Maybe the choices out there. No, they really didn't want one. B,
there is a lot of choices out there this offseason.
B, the one they really want might, like I said in Belichick, he might have been that guy they wanted, but they didn't want to pull the trigger because they didn't want to give him total autonomy like he would like.
I agree with that.
Chip Kelly situation.
There's no way Howie Roseman's given any power.
They like Nick Sirianni because Nick Sirianni is definitely a company guy. Let's call for what it is. I'm not saying he's a puppet or anything.
I can't argue with it.
But he's definitely a company guy. If Howie says jump or if Jeff says jump, he will ask how high. Which there's nothing wrong with that.
I was going to say, how many coaches consecutively have they had like that?
Yeah, but my point is,
it's not kind of Doug. I guess you can argue the Doug thing because Doug was like, back. No, I'm not doing this. And if you make me fire
the Super Bowl, that's why.
You think?
Would Nick change his little attitude with that situation if they won the Super Bowl? Yeah, that's 100%. His second year, he brought Philadelphia a thing that they've never had in his second year. Nobody was really believing that Doug Peterson was going to be this guy. Even they did. They brought in Schwartz to to back up that was a
I
safety
do believe
net.
that 100%.
So they got something out of it. That even the Eagles, that none of us expected 2017 to be this miraculous year, especially after it went really good.
Yeah, that was
and
awesome.
then the ACL tear and all that
was
stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's my point, is like, you saw him push back, and that's why he's not here anymore.
Right.
Because one of the questions they said last year about Nick Sirianni, when people were talking like, should he be fired? Shouldn't he be fired? Was like, he was just in the Super Bowl. He went to the playoffs all 3 years. He was in the Super Bowl last year. He's making the playoffs this year. So you really can't fire the guy for that. And I get it. And I said,
isn't that an argument of why he's not on the hot seat this year? Also, though, he has gone to the playoffs every single season.
I agree with you, but I also push back on the Doug Peterson thing. He won the Super Bowl just years before that. He was in the playoffs for the most part, except for 2020.
What has been the trend of Nick Sirianni so far? Wild card loss, Super Bowl, wild card loss. One of the best rosters we have ever seen in Eagles history right now.
Yeah.
Where's the trend going? Because I'm looking at a Super Bowl appearance out.
And that better be a Super Bowl appearance. It better be a Super Bowl W.
Yeah, got to bring you gotta.
I mean, they ought to
get the trophy this time.
It's lose first round to Tampa Bay. So, could you please just not be Super Bowl against the Chiefs? Nice.
Oh my God, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
That is a trend, Al.
Yes.
That's exactly the trend.
Yeah, I don't like it.
No, and then we go out and we win this time against the Chiefs.
I just don't want the Chiefs to be like what Michael Jordan was to a lot of guys in the 90s who probably should have rings but don't, because they had to go against Michael Jordan every year. Like, that's what I worry about with that. But listen, I don't think Nick Sirianni had lost the locker room to the point that it was irreparable. I just think he did lose it for a time. And and the guys were checked out. And that's part of losing the locker room. If you lose your team.
But I also, you're saying guys could be checked out, which I agree.
Yeah, not all
but
guys.
I don't think that's storm the locker room with torches for Nick Sirianni.
No.
I think the guys were just not wanting to be there. It has nothing to do with Sirianni, in my opinion.
I said last year he should be fired if Howie and Jeff did an internal investigation, interviewed the players, and got some feedback to the point that they found out that this team lost total respect for him. If they found out this team fell apart and it was...
But to your argument, you're saying he should have been fired if they investigated and found that out. Well, he wasn't fired, so why are you saying now that you feel like he lost the locker room? You're contradicting what you're saying here.
I'm saying I don't feel like he totally lost the locker room. I just said I felt like he lost part of the locker room for a time. And they found enough good in him, and probably a lot of it came from the endorsements that you just mentioned recently. And if he didn't have those endorsements,
I think you're trying to spin it.
No, I'm not spinning it.
I'm telling you.
I'm telling you, if he didn't have those endorsements, he probably would have been fired.
I don't believe it.
Okay.
Congratulations, Stephen Doherty.
On that note, that guy, we don't write a book together. We can't even have a conversation together.
Let alone 18 chapters.
Yeah. So thank you to Jeff. Yeah, Jeff and Dave.
Yeah, Jeff and Dave.
The book is called Shadows of Glory. Actually, I can put it up on the screen so it's a little bigger here. Back up for a second because there's the book. Shadows of Glory, memorable and offbeat World Series stories. It is really good, guys. Like I said, the first couple chapters I've already got. It is really good. So check it out. Local guy Dave and his friend. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, it's kind of funny. Like, I was trying to make jokes about him. Like, so you had a guy. You said no. It'd be like me trying to start EoP and say, Joe, you want to do it? And you're like, nah, I don't want to do it. And I find another friend to do it. And then you like come in like months later, like, you know what? I want to be part of it now. And I tell the other guy, Joe, to start digging the hole.
Sorry, guy.
Yeah, sorry, guy. You're out, guy. But no, guys, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Great show tonight. Great hanging out with everybody. If you missed it, Philly Press Box Radio was on earlier.
Jody McDonald
was on. And don't forget, their 500th episode is coming up on Sunday, June 23rd at the Irish Rover Station House at 1033 South Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne, PA. We will be there live along with Joe Watson, former Cup champion ×2, might I add. Jim Jackson, play-by-play for the Flyers, and Lou Nolan, in-house arena announcer. Check it out. You all have heard Lou's voice at least 1,000 times at any Flyers game. All great guys, all interwoven into the fabric of the Flyers. And, talk about the Flyers because it is the 50th anniversary of that first championship. And they need to win another one because after this year, that will be off the cup.
That's right. Forgot about that.
So,
every 50 years?
Yeah, so it'll be about almost every 50 years.
Yeah.
I think it works out because they got to just get rid of the old stuff.
Yeah.
And then that means by next year, if they don't win, there'll be no
They're
Philadelphia
completely off.
Flyers on the current cup. So got to get our asses back on there so we can at least.
Come on, Danny. Come on, Keith.
I honestly, is this game even just a homer? But I think they can. I'm not saying next year, but
Right.
I think in the next 3 to 5 years,
They're building.
They're going to be there.
They're building something, yeah.
And if Mitchcock gets here soon, excited.
Yeah, still question marks with that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see how that plays out. Awesome show, Alan, Joe. Keep it up the great work. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Great guy, Adam. But guys, I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank our sponsors over at Sherry'sTickets.com. Use that great promo code
EoP10.
That's right, EoP10 will save you 10% off at Sherry'sTickets.com. Don't forget SherryInjuryLaw.com for all your workers' comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, and criminal law needs. David R. Cherry's the man with the plan at SherryInjuryLaw.com. Call him at 610-565-0300. Don't forget to go over to, let's pull this one up, PhillySportsTrips.com. Sign up from all the great trips. You got Baltimore coming up, Chicago, Pittsburgh, all the Eagles away games, you name it, and they got it.
Boston is sold out.
Boston is all sold out. I'm just gonna say Boston for. I'm gonna leave.
Boston.
I'm gonna do like his leave his away message for everybody. Joe's in Boston right now. And guys, don't forget every morning here on EoP, Trending in the AM with Phil Stiefel, kicking your mornings off, talking about what's going on in Philly and the world of sports surrounding it. So check it out every 8 a.m. here on EoP and EoPSports.com. As well as sign up for the newsletter at EoPSports.com. Other than that, Joe, anything else you want to say before we head out?
Nah, man. Phil's in London.
All right, guys. Yeah, that's right. I'll be on the call Saturday, and I think it's Maddie be on Sunday, but I'm not exactly sure. I have to look at the schedule for that. But yeah, we'll be here. So it's a 1 o'clock or 1:10 game on Saturday, and it's a Sunday early one. So if you're a church goer, you might want to go Saturday night after that Phillies game.
Yeah, 10:05?
It's like 10:10, 10:05, something like that. Yeah. So check it out. We'll have all that coverage for you and so much more. Articles up on the site tonight for the series against the Brewers. Our boy Rock Hoffman wrote it, and he was down there at the game and actually called in from the press box. So if you missed it, you can go back and check the replay with him and our boy Sal G.
Wait a minute. Hold on a
Or
second.
as Fred calls him, Sal Guido. Did you miss that one?
Wait a minute. So that means West Coast, Phillies, Mets is going to be 7 a.m.?
West Coast?
Yeah. Like
yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
That's pretty cool for West Coasters.
Man, think about it. You can watch a whole Phillies game way before noon.
Before church?
Yeah, you can still go to church if you go to 10:30 mass.
How about that? That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love early stuff.
Yeah, I feel like the one plus about living on the West Coast. Think about all the 1 o'clock games.
10 a.m.
Yeah, you can't beat that. Like, remember we watched like these England games for football on at 9. We're like all excited about it. These guys get it every day.
Waking up right away, coffee, football, love it.
Sunday night football starts at 5 p.m., Joe.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I might move to the West Coast.
I was just going to say, I mean, we complained about the Eagles in primetime all these games. We'll just head over there for them.
Yeah, and they actually have, as we
people travel to the West Coast for the games. We're traveling just to watch the games there, so it's earlier.
Well, we mentioned that there's no Sunday night Dallas game.
Yeah,
Eagles Dallas game, but that can still be flexed.
That's true.
So we'll find out. But guys, thank you for joining us. Plenty going on tomorrow. Football Stories Live will be on. Fly Like an Eagle, as well as Talking Union. And don't forget, on Friday we have the Steel Steps guys talking football.
They do a great job.
Wrestling. Yeah, they're doing an amazing job. Getting some great interviews. So guys, if you're missing it, check it out. Newsletter will be out on Friday. Actually going to do some extra newsletters coming up with the the NBA draft coming up. I'll have one just for that.
Number 16.
The NHL draft coming up. We'll have one just for that. And
2
also
first-rounders.
MLB draft. We'll have one for that as well.
One every round.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on with that?
32 rounds? It's like something crazy.
So, yeah, they got like 27.
So we have a lot of articles out, so I'll put a lot of them into the newsletter. But the live show is only covering the first round.
Right, yeah.
We are not going any further than that. You're not going to see the guy until we're like 30 or 40. We are 40. 57 years old, probably. God, I forgot how old we are, Joe. But other than that, I'm Big Al.
And I'm Joe Shear.
And we out.